It's great reporting as well. Thank you both.
Last night, there was a major escalation in this war. So the Israelis have bombed the Iranian oil fields. And in response, the Iranians now are attacking the energy infrastructure of the GCC. Okay, so let's have a look at what this attack looks like. This is Qatar. Okay, so Qatar provides 20% of the world's LNG, and this is a major escalation. And again, as I pointed out last class, the entire strategy of Iran is to destroy the global economy, okay? And this is how it will do so. It also attacked Tel Aviv in response for the assassination of their de facto leader, Ali Larijani, okay? So this is what the attack looks like. As you can see from this picture, this is a cluster warhead, and it is impossible for air defense to stop this. So Tel Aviv is getting pummeled. We don't have footage because it's being censored right now. And you would think that the Israelis would want this war to end as soon as possible because Tel Aviv and other cities are getting destroyed in this war. And again, there's really no way for the Israelis to defend themselves against Iranian ballistic missiles. But unfortunately, there are many Israelis who are very happy about all this destruction. All right? And so this is one of the more influential rabbis in Jerusalem. He's talking in Hebrew, but what he's saying is that this war of destruction, it will bring about the return of the coming of the Messiah. And it will happen on Thursday, which is today. Okay? So they are not at all saddened by what is happening. In fact, they are quite animated. They're very excited about what's happening. So again, you cannot look at this war from a geopolitical lens. You have to look at it from an eschatological perspective. All right? So let us look at where we are in the war so far. And as you can see, it is a regional war, and both sides are seeking maximalist objectives. And what this means is the United States and Israel wants to destroy Israel, especially its capacity to be a nation state. And so right now, the Americans and Israelis are attacking their leadership, decapitating their leadership, as well as targeting their economy. And later on, as this war progresses and escalates, they will start to target civilian critical infrastructure, including water. Okay? And it's already happening. They also want to have a divide and rule strategy where they want to provoke ethnic conflict in Iran and divide Iran up into ethnic enclaves. And this is what we call balkanization. The Iranians, on the other hand, want to destroy the entire global economy. And you do that by attacking the energy infrastructure of the GCC. Because again, the entire basis of the global economy is cheap energy. Okay? So as this war progresses, you will notice certain things. Right? So eventually, the Americans will have no choice but to launch a ground invasion. And one possible attack vector is here, which is Karg Island. This is where Iran stores about 9% of its oil for export. And so the idea is that if you take Khark Island, you will destroy the Iranian economy and thus its capacity to sustain this war. The problem with Khark Island is that it's easy to take, but it's hard to defend because of the coastline, right? In which case, you have to also take the coastline. But then you deal with the Zagros Mountains, and so you have to expand outwards. Okay, so this is what we call mission creep, where you cannot justify the war. So what you do is you put in some soldiers, and then the mission creep becomes just justification for the war. Okay, so that's one thing to spot as you read the news. Khark Island will be a flashpoint. Another flashpoint will be Saudi Arabia, because right now the Iranians are attacking Saudi Arabia. Now, what Saudi Arabia can do is declare war on Iran. And this is important because Saudi Arabia has a mutual defense pact with Pakistan, so that if any are attacked, the other is obligated to come to each other's defense, okay? This is important because, as you can see, Pakistan opens up the eastern front, okay? So it's possible the Americans can attack from the east. The other thing that's important is that Pakistan has nuclear weapons. And it is possible nuclear weapons are used. I strongly believe tactical nuclear weapons will not be used, okay? But once Pakistan is in the war, nuclear warheads are now at play, okay? Another thing to watch is how this war expands elsewhere, okay? Because when the time is appropriate, what will happen is that the Iranians will activate their proxies, the Houthis, and they will close off another critical choke point. Okay, so now what's going to happen is that there'll be two critical maritime choke points that are closed off, thus isolating the GCC and thus cutting off the world's access to cheap energy. And when they do that, we can expect global retaliation and other forces will have to come in to secure cheap energy. Okay, it is possible the South Koreans, the Japanese are forced into this war because they are so dependent on GCC energy. All right. So these are things that we will look for in the next few weeks. Something else that is creating attention online is people are speculating that Benjamin Netanyahu is dead. And the reason why is that he's not been seen in a public setting for many days. There have been cabinet meetings, and Netanyahu usually chairs them, and he's not there, okay? The other thing is that there are fake AI videos of him giving speeches, and it's pretty blatant these are fake. So people are speculating that he is dead, and they're trying to cover it up. This is a picture of him visiting a cafe in Jerusalem to prove he's not dead. The problem is that this cafe is in a mountain, and it will take him about like 50 minutes to drive there. So why does he go there? Why doesn't he just have a cabinet meeting or get on the phone with Donald Trump to prove he's still alive? All right? So, but I personally don't believe he is dead. He could be hiding somewhere, or he could be injured. What we do know is that the Iranians are killing a lot of senior Israeli officials, including the head of Mossad, the spy agency. And Netanyahu's residence was also targeted in Tel Aviv. So that's a really interesting question. How are the Iranians able to target so many of the top leadership of the Israelis, okay? But not only that, but this is Ali Larijani, and he is the de facto head of the Iran war effort. And he was assassinated yesterday or 2 days ago. And the Iranians have confirmed this, okay? So he is confirmed to be dead. And analysts are extremely worried about this because he is a very pragmatic person. And so you can negotiate with him, right? So once this war reaches a certain point where both sides are exhausted, then it is possible to approach him and say, you know what, let's just negotiate a ceasefire. And he'd be willing to because he's very experienced. He's also very influential, so he's able to bring together the different factions of the Iranian government and negotiate a ceasefire. With him dead, it is now almost impossible to foresee a ceasefire. Okay? So let's discuss why you really don't want to do this sort of stuff. You don't really want to kill other nations' leaders, okay? And so let's just use an analogy. Let's imagine in the streets there are two gangs at war with each other, okay? Gang A and Gang B. Okay, Gang A, Gang B. And if you look at gangs, they are structured as hierarchies, okay? But there's a lot of autonomy among the different sections, okay? And what holds the gangs together, of course, is the leader. So when these two gangs go to war, what they try to avoid is killing each other's leader. Why? Because a war is often used to achieve certain political objectives, right? And so the point isn't to kill everyone. The point is to negotiate a treaty that is most beneficial to you. And you do that by negotiating with each other's leaders, okay? Because they have the authority to implement the treaty. That's the first reason. The second reason is if you kill the leader, then more people, there'll be a competition to replace the leader, right? And during a gang war, the person who is most violent, the most extreme, will often become the new leader, okay? So by killing this leader, not only do you cause conflict among the gang, but you also cause a massive escalation in the conflict between these two gangs, and there's really no way out. That is why historically you do not target other nations' leaders, because then there's no off-ramp. Okay? So by targeting Larijani, the Israelis and the Americans have ensured that there will be no off-ramp now. This war we fought to the bitter end. And unfortunately, as we discussed previously, that is the objective here. The Israelis and the Americans are interested in maximalist aims to destroy Iran permanently. Okay? And the Iranians are also maximalists in that they want to destroy the global economy permanently in order to restructure reality itself. All right, okay. So this leaves us with three major questions that I want to look at today, okay? The first big question is, how are these leaders dying? It's not that easy to kill a leader, right? Because he's protected by security. And usually there are two ways to figure out where the leader is, okay? There's human intelligence, called HUMINT, and there's signal intelligence, called SIGINT. Okay? Human intelligence, signal intelligence. Signal intelligence just means electronic eavesdropping, where I listen in on your telephone calls, where I track your IP address, okay? And the Israelis and Americans are obviously very sophisticated in that. And the Americans and the Israelis are saying that we are using electronic surveillance in order to track these people down. I don't think that's convincing. I think the most important source, the most reliable source of information is human intelligence, having spies embedded in local networks to spot for you where they are, okay? That's the best way to figure out where they are. So then this raises the question, how are the Israelis and the Americans getting this human intelligence, okay? All right, that's the first question we want to look at. How are these leaders dying? Second question is like, why are they dying? Like, what's the point of killing them, right? Because once they die, they can just be replaced, and they're often replaced by a more extreme individual, okay? So that's the second question we want to look at. And the third question we want to look at is, what does this mean for the war and the world? Okay? What do these decapitation strikes ultimately mean for how this war will progress and how this will affect the world in general, okay? All right, so those are the three big questions I want to look at. So to answer these three questions, I want to introduce a new idea to you, okay? It's called the law of proximity. The law of proximity, the idea is this. Whenever you play a game, you're not just playing one game. You're playing many, many different games. And the game that you choose to play is the one that is most proximate to you, the one that is most close to you. And that impacts your decision making the most. Okay, so that's a law of proximity. So let me explain to you what this means using an analogy, okay? Let's just use your life. You are playing actually multiple games every single day, all right? So let's examine this. The first game you play, of course, is the family game, right? So you might have parents and you have siblings, okay? And the game you're playing, of course, is to win attention from your parents. And to do so, depending on who your siblings are, you might use different strategies, including doing well in school or being a pain in the ass. Unfortunately, my kids choose to be a pain in the ass, okay? Yes. The parents are playing another game, which is social prestige, right? So they're competing against other parents to have the best family possible, all right? So, and then not only do you play a game at home, but you also play games at school, right? Right? So when you go to school, you're competing against your classmates for attention and popularity, but you're also playing a game in school to get the best grades so that you can get into a good college, right? Then you go to work where you're competing in order to win the favor of your boss and to be popular among your colleagues. Then you play a city game where you live in Beijing and you want Beijing to be better than maybe Shanghai or Shenzhen, okay? And then you play a game of maybe a nation where you want China to be stronger than Japan, okay? So as you can see, every single day you're playing multiple games, even though you may not recognize it. And again, what's important is the game that is most important to you is the game which you are most close to, right? The one that you can see in front of you. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, but this is also true for nations as well, where we think that the game is between nations. But really, the game is within nations. And the conflict within nations is the one conflict that determines how nations behave against each other. All right, so today what we will do is we will look at three examples of this, okay? We will look at the civil conflicts in America, in Israel, and in Iran to figure out why they behave the way they do, and then figure out how this war will progress. Okay, so clearly there is a civil conflict right now in America. Okay, you have the Democrats and you have the Republicans. Now what's odd is that even though these two different political parties are at war with each other, they both support the war because their calculus is different. Okay? So why do the Democrats support this war? Well, it's because they believe that this war will be extremely unpopular in America, which will allow the Democrats to dominate in the midterms in November and then win the presidential election in 2028. And they believe that this war will be so unpopular, it will destroy Donald Trump and allow the Democrats to rule forever. It will basically destroy the Republican Party. All right? And so that is your strategy. And if you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense. The Republicans have a different strategy, which is this war may be unpopular, and this war may make America lose, but it's okay. Why? Because in a time of war, the president has something called the Emergency Powers Act, okay? Emergency powers. Emergency powers allows the president to essentially suspend the Constitution and to suspend or delay elections. Also, the Republicans want to pass something called Safe America Act. Okay? The Safe America Act, which means that if you are a voter, you must present ID in order to vote. And you think that this is, well, reasonable, but historically, the idea of checking ID is a way to discriminate against minorities, right? To have police officers there to scare minorities. And that's traditionally how racism was enforced in America. Okay? So in other words, the Republicans have many different strategies of either cheating or manipulating the elections. They could also, I just say this, but if the war's going really badly, what they will do is call a national draft and cancel the elections, okay? All right, so these are two different strategies going on. But as you can see, this is not really about America defeating Iran. This is really about the Democrats or Republicans trying to obtain power and keep it, okay? All right, but what's important for us to understand is that it's not just about the Democrats and Republicans at war with each other. There's actually a much deeper divide in America, okay? And this divide is a conflict between the elite and the counter-elite. Remember how we introduced the idea of elite overproduction, right? This is the Peter Turchin idea. And he argues that what leads to civil war is that you have too many elite who want to be the ones in power. Power is a zero-sum game, and therefore, when you have elite overproduction, they have to go to war against each other in order to have the power. Okay? And so, what's going on? Who are the elite and who's the counter-elite? Well, I mean, to put it very simply, the Democrats represent the elite, and the Republicans represent the counter-elite, okay? So, basically, the elite is the empire. And counter-elite is MAGA, which is America First. And so they have two different ideals for America. The empire is to maintain the current global order, right? And MAGA is to retreat back into the Western Hemisphere and focus on Americans' core national interests. Right? They're also divided into finance and AI. Okay? So in other words, Wall Street are the main backers of the current elite, and then Silicon Valley are the main backers of the counter elite. Okay? So these people are interested in maintaining the status quo. They are interested in a revolution. Right? And so this is the main divide in America that will eventually lead to a civil war, like an actual civil war, okay? But right now, they're fighting over foreign policy. So I will discuss this more in the future, okay? But I present to you now. So let me give you a concrete example of why they're fighting. Why are people in finance fighting with people in AI? And there's a very good reason. Because if you're able to control Washington, D.C., if you're able to control the levers of government, you're able to make a lot of money for yourself, okay? So let's look at this concretely. Okay, what people don't really understand is that both finance and AI are bubbles that will burst. They're parasites.
Taught you
okay?
that, but you're
so
trash.
Finance is a parasite because there's something
That's
called
why a lot of people do the three-healer
bubble.
comp. Because you have one healer healing the healers, and the other healers are just DPS.
Credit bubble,
and
the idea of private credit is very simple. rather than banks issuing loans to companies, companies privately issue loans to other companies. And you would think that these companies would be very careful with who they lend to and how much they lend to, right? That's not true.
Dealing with Grudo in this match.
Why? Because in 2008,
I just hate
these
dealing with them in general,
banks
especially if it's
destroyed
a
the global
good one.
economy, and the American government bailed them out.
I remember I had one track meet.
Right?
between
They suffered
walls
no
and they beat my-
consequences. This idea of moral
I've literally
hazard.
seen one
If you
solo
do
group
not
on the team,
suffer
and he was the
consequences
reason
for your
that we just got
stupidity,
mollywopped.
well,
'Cause he
you're
was
just going to be
good,
more
too,
stupid in the future.
on top of it.
Okay? So these companies believe that we control Washington, D.C., therefore we can be
had
as
healers
risky and
out the
stupid
yin-yang.
as we want. So they're giving out lots and lots of silly loans to companies because they collect a fee for these loans, right? And then when these loans don't actually work out, meaning the companies go bankrupt, what they do is they say, oh, we'll lend you some more money to keep afloat, okay? So
I
now
don't
this
mind
problem has
solo
reached
tanking,
about
but
$2
whoever my
trillion.
fucking healers are, be dependent.
And so they think that, okay, well, worst case scenario, the government will bail us out if we all go bankrupt because we're too big to fail. And all our
okay.
friends are in government. Okay? That's their mentality. And in 2008, that worked. But there's a problem today,
I need to get him
which
with
is
the-
there's also another group that's doing the
little
same
moving-
crap, okay? And it's called the AI
little
bubble.
title card thing, whatever you
All
want
right,
to call
so
that.
you look at AI bubble.
The
You have
anime.
companies like Microsoft, OpenAI, Oracle, NVIDIA.
I ain't
Okay,
gonna lie,
lots
out
and
of
lots of
all
different
the
companies.
mutants, Magneto is
And
my
the way
favorite.
they operate is
Always has been
they
since
just
I was a
lend money
kid.
to each other, okay? It's like, I give you $1 billion, then you give me $1 billion,
He's
and now
like
we have
the
$2
most
billion.
OP.
It's a circle jerk.
What you are, Angela.
And it's getting a lot of money from the GCC and other investors. The problem, of course, is what's happening in the war, right?
I don't.
So if the GCC can no longer put
You said
more
you were
money
raised by a
into this
nasty
bubble,
lot.
then eventually this bubble will have to burst. But they're like, that's okay. Why? Because we control Trump. We control the White House. We are the stock market. Therefore, Washington, D.C. will bail us out. Okay? So that's the war going on, where you have two parasitic forces, the finance sector and the AI and the tech sector, and they are all looking for government bailouts when their bubble bursts. But the government doesn't have infinite money. It can only bail out one side, right? So they're going to fight over with the government. They're going to fight over who bails who out. Okay? If the Democrats can win the House and the presidency into 2028, then the private credit people will get bailed out. But if Trump and his people stay in power in 2028, then the AI people will get bailed out. Okay? So that's the civil war going on in America right now. We'll discuss this more later in the future, but I just present to you right now, okay? And then, of course, you have the Israelis, Israel. People don't really appreciate how divided Israel is. This is about 2020 when you have like 1 million people in Tel Aviv calling for the resignation, the impeachment, the jailing of Prime Minister Netanyahu. Because Netanyahu, like most Israeli politicians, is very corrupt. Okay? And to avoid going to jail, Netanyahu proposed changing the judiciary, changing the laws. And so there's these massive protests against Netanyahu. And at this point in Israel, it seemed as though Netanyahu was going to fall from power and go to jail for the rest of his life. But then, of course, October 7th happened. Okay? October 7th happened. And then Israel is now in permanent war that gives him emergency powers. Okay? All right. To give you a sense of how divided Israel is, let's look at the Knesset, which is a parliament. Guys, this is a lot of political parties. As you can see, none of them are dominant. Okay? The biggest, Likud, which is Netanyahu party, it has about 30 members. But it cannot rule by itself, therefore it has to join with other political parties. Okay? It has to be a coalition. But you look at its enemies. Well, its enemies also have a lot. So it seems as though Israel is an extremely divided society, and it is. Okay? People don't really appreciate this. A lot of people talk about a Jewish global conspiracy. What people don't really understand is the Jewish people have never, ever gotten along. So you go back to the time of Jesus, and there were like three major factions in Jerusalem. They were the Sadducees, there were the Pharisees, and the Essenes. They all hated each other. In the year 70, the Romans sent a huge army to destroy Jerusalem. Okay? And you would think at this time, the people in Jerusalem would get together and unite and defend Jerusalem, because otherwise they'd all be killed. Well, they didn't get together, okay? And the Romans destroyed Jerusalem and burned down their second temple and massacred a lot of Jews. So the Jews have always had this problem where they're extremely creative and intellectual, but that just leads to massive infighting, okay? All right, so these are the leaders of the different political parties of Israel. And again, I hate to say this, but like they really hate each other. It's not, like a show. They generally hate each other. And that's why Israel has been politically been so dysfunctional these past few decades, okay? All right, so now I want to discuss where the major conflict in Israel is. Okay, so I would say there's like the two major conflicts is represented by Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. These are two cities in Israel, and they are the two major cities of Israel, and they represent two different centers of gravity, two different visions for Israel. Tel Aviv is democratic. Jerusalem is a theocracy, meaning it's religious. Okay? Tel Aviv is open, meaning it actually has a lot of homosexuals, right? And you can imagine people in Jerusalem aren't happy about this, so they're very conservative. Okay, cosmopolitan tradition. All right, so these are two vastly different visions for Israel, where Tel Aviv is this open, democratic, modern, progressive city. Lots of homosexuals, lots of open ideas, very secular, very outward-looking, very Western. Jerusalem is the complete opposite, okay? Very religious, very conservative. And they hate each other. And the fact that Tel Aviv is getting destroyed right now in this war, people in Jerusalem are actually okay with this, okay? They're not like, oh my God, they're killing Israel. No. Tel Aviv is the great Satan. Let's just destroy it so that we can build a theocracy. Okay, all right. So let's look closely at where they disagree, okay? So Israel is the kingdom of David.
The current score is 3-2-0.
But Tel Aviv and Jerusalem perceive David differently. Okay? So for people in Tel Aviv, David was the king when Israel was at the height of its glory, when it was an open, cosmopolitan, creative, innovative empire. And that's what they want Israel to be. The people in Jerusalem see David as a different person. They see David as primarily a poet prophet. And they see David as the exemplar, as the favorite of God, because he redeemed himself and repented himself in the eyes of God, okay? So redemption and repentance. All right. And what they focus on is a story of David, where David is king, and one day he wakes up and finds he's in love with Bathsheba. And so he basically has sex with Bathsheba. Bathsheba gets pregnant, and that's a problem because Bathsheba is married to someone else, Uriah the Hittite. So what does David do? David has him killed, okay? And David can do this because he's king. But God finds out and sends the prophet Nathan to tell David, you've sinned. And at first, David refuses to admit that he's in the wrong. But then his child with Bathsheba dies. And David falls into tremendous grief. And every day, he's praying to God for forgiveness. He's asking for redemption. He is repenting, and God forgives him. And in this process, not only does David become a better person, but he becomes united with God, because now they're best friends. Now they talk every day. And that's what the vision that people in Jerusalem have for Israel, a nation that engages in redemption and repentance. They don't care about this war. They don't care about Iran. They don't care about the United States. They don't care about the Greater Israel Project. They care about the Jews finding God again and being loyal to God. And that is what will bring peace to the world, okay? That is how they see the world. This is how they perceive things. They believe that in every person, there's a divine soul, okay, that comes from God. But it is trapped in the animal soul, okay? So Tel Aviv is the animal soul. And this is the divine soul. All right? So what the animal soul is, you seek material comfort. You want to have sex. You want to get drunk. You want to party. You want to drive a Ferrari. Okay? This is all animal. But inside of you is the divine soul that only seeks to be with God. Okay? And so we are constantly in a struggle between the animal soul and the divine soul. And so from their perspective, Tel Aviv represents the animal soul of Israel. Jerusalem represents the divine soul of Israel. So it's okay if the Iranians destroy Tel Aviv. Good. Also, they recognize that war is good, because if people really want to find God again, they need to suffer. They need to lose everything before they recognize the glory of God. Okay? So think of the book of Job. When Job is a character in the Bible who is very wealthy. And so God decides, you know what? Maybe he's only faithful to me because he's very wealthy. So Job loses everything, and this heightens his faith in God. Okay? So that's the vision that these crazy religious zealots have in Jerusalem, which is like, let's destroy Israel so that we can rediscover our love for God, okay? The destruction of Israel will lead to the redemption and repentance of the Israeli people, and therefore peace in this world. The Messiah will finally come. That's why the rabbi was constantly talking about on Thursday the Messiah will come, because he feels it's so close. There's so much destruction. There's so much war. So the Messiah must come, because now the Jews recognize that only God can save them. Therefore, when you will it, when you pray for the Messiah, when you really want in your heart, that's when the Messiah will come. Okay? But you need to create the conditions when people really want the Messiah. Okay? So that's a civil conflict going on in Israel. And again, these people in Jerusalem, these fanatics, they don't really care if the world is destroyed, because this world is fake anyway. Who cares? What matters is the divine soul. Okay? Yeah. You have a question, Vincent?
I mean, today, which is Thursday, and like...
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. The rabbi said that.
Oh, the rabbi said that, like, the Messiah is coming today. But, like, will the coming of Messiah really affect China and those countries? Or is all their personal beliefs?
Okay, listen. I know this is hard for you guys to understand. But China doesn't matter, okay? Only Israel matters. The United States, China, Russia, does not matter. The only thing that matters is Israel, okay? Only matters is the people in Israel, the Jews. Their spiritual state will determine the fate of the world. Once the Jews unify with God, then peace and prosperity will come for the rest of the world, okay? All right? Okay. So now I want to talk about Iran, okay? This is the political government structure of Iran. Now, one thing to notice is that it's very complicated, Okay, and it's into the religious aspects, okay, assembly of experts, and the secular aspect, which is the government, okay? So it's a government, but the Islamic clerics are at the very top. And this is a dual identity of Iran, okay? And this is their last presidential election. And as you can see, it's a pretty divided country, where people in the middle voted for Jalali, but people in the outskirts voted for Pezeshkian, okay? So there's a lot of conflict in Iran, not just political, religious, but also ethnic as well. All right, so let me explain very quickly what I see is the major divide in Iran, okay? So of course you have the Islamic theocracy, and they're in conflict with secular nationalists. And now, of course, there's ethnic groups as well. I don't really think the ethnic groups matter that much, okay? What really matters is a conflict between the secular nationalists and the Islamic theocracy. Right? So basically, the rural-urban divide. People who are well-educated and want to see Iran as a secular state that promotes democracy and progress in science versus these religious individuals, okay? Now, what happens is that in a war, you become more extreme. So what will happen is that the Islamic theocracy will transition into Shia eschatology or martyrdom, okay? Where they think that this war is about having the 12th Imam, Mahdi, who is basically the Messiah, return to lead them to war against the great Satan, which is Israel and the United States, okay? So over time, the Islamists will become much more radical. This will force the secular nationalists to also become much more radical as well. So they will become Persian exceptionists, okay? And what this means is that Persian exceptionalism, which just means that Persia is the greatest civilization in human history, and therefore it is worth dying for. It is worth fighting for. The survival of the Persian civilization is much more important than the survival of the Iranian state. Okay? So the great question for the Iranians is, are they able to reconcile the differences between these two strands of the culture? Or will this lead to civil war in Iran? Okay? We are seeing civil war in Israel. We're seeing civil war in America. Iran cannot afford to fight a civil war at this time because they're being bombarded by two very powerful nations, the Israel and America. Okay? But unfortunately, the law of proximity teaches us that people are much more interested in their own internal conflict than the outside global conflict, okay? And so this understanding now gives us, helps us answer the three big questions of today, right? How are these leaders getting killed? Why are they getting killed? And what will this mean for the rest of the world, okay? And so the first two questions, how are they getting killed, why are they getting killed? They're getting killed because of these civil conflicts within these nations, okay? These different factions are providing intelligence to their enemies in order to limit their internal enemies, right? That's, again, I don't have evidence, but I think according to game theory, that's the best explanation for how these leaders are getting killed. Because again, it's not that easy as a foreign nation to identify the location precisely of that leader, okay? And what we're seeing in this war is both the Iranians and the Israelis are doing a very excellent job of killing each other's leaders. And that's not actually common, Right? So I think this civil conflict within these nations offers the best guide, the best understanding of why this is happening. Okay. Now, the third question is, where's the world going? As you can see from these conflicts, it seems as though the world can only become much more theocratic in the end. Okay. So what's happening is, at the end of the day, this war in Iran, in the Middle East, it's really a war between two different competing visions of the world. Okay, you have the global secular financial order. Okay, and this is the world that we live in today, and they're fighting against a nationalist theocracy. Theocratic order. All right? So this is what we can expect for the next 5 to 10 years, where Iran becomes much more theocratic, extreme, and nationalistic. Israel abandons democracy and embraces theocracy. America will also abandon democracy and embrace theocracy, because that is a general trend of the world. Okay? All right? Okay, so what I want to do in next class is discuss how the world will change next 5 to 10 years. All right? Okay, any questions? Okay.
You mentioned that Israel have two divided parts, and one represents the animal soul and the other represents the divine soul. Like I can substitute this logic to a single person. Like people are always struggled with like identify or not identify, like separating the divine soul and pursue the divine soul, but they cannot get rid of the animal soul. Is there a way where we can only struggle as in our lives?
Okay, so first of all, it's important to understand that this is how religious people in Israel frame the conflict in Israel, okay? A conflict between the animal soul and the divine soul. The people in Tel Aviv would frame the debate as one between progress and tradition, right? Going forward or staying backward, right? So that is, so people in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem would see this in a different way. But as you point out, there's some validity to this idea that we're all struggle between the animal soul and the divine soul. And I would say that for the past 20 years, we only have been indulging in the animal soul, okay? We've abandoned the divine soul. And that's why I think people are so desperate for change. And this is what's leading to so much conflict around the world, where the human soul is off balance, okay? Where we are too materialistic and not spiritual enough. And what we know from history is that if a society goes too far in one extreme, they swing back to the other extreme, okay? And that's what we're seeing, where one good outcome, I think, of all this conflict around the world is people start to recognize limitations of money, of materialism, of individualism, and they start to embrace more spirituality, community, family. Because quite honestly, you don't have a choice in the matter, okay? If you're like, I want to buy myself a Gulfstream jet and I want to have like, a huge company, you're gonna be disappointed, okay? As I will show you next class, the world is heading towards an economic depression. Okay, basically a splintering, a rupture in the world. And so you're not going to be able to afford to fly to Maldives on vacation. There won't be avocados in the supermarket. Okay? But all this means is now you have a chance to focus more on introspection, on reflection, on family, on asking yourself, what makes me happy? What gives me meaning and purpose in life? And the answer, of course, is each other. Okay? And maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this is the intention of the universe. Maybe, as the people in Jerusalem would say, this is really the plan of God. Okay? And it's unfortunate that all this war and suffering is happening. But again, what a lot of people who are religious will tell you is we can only find redemption through suffering and through pain and through tragedy. All right? Okay? Any more questions, guys? Okay, all right, I'll see you next class.
Angels always rise again. The time to fight still remains. Invisible?
Let's end it here. Let me just say one more thing. Let me say one more thing.
Because we should play that clip.
When we inevitably get dragged into this war, when we inevitably end up spending tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions, if not a trillion, depending on how long that war with Iran lasts, will you guys come back on this show and at least admit I was right?
Absolutely.
Well, I said that on Her Take about 8 months ago, and guess what? I was right, but I'm not sharing that with you simply to brag about how right I was. We're now in the third week of this unnecessary war against Iran, and it's already costing American taxpayers literally billions of dollars. And as I said in the video you just watched, this mess could ultimately end up costing us trillions of dollars, and we're already $40 trillion in debt. How is this beneficial to the American people in any way, shape, or form? Well, last Thursday, the Pentagon announced that it spent about $11.3 billion on the war in Iran in just the first week. In 1 week. In 1 week. By the way, all those people who got kicked off of the Medicaid system because our Congress decided to cut $1 trillion in funding to Medicaid, how do you feel about the fact that we spent $11.3 billion on the war in just 1 week? We don't hate our government enough. Let me just be clear about that. I should also note that the director of National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, actually corrected the number to closer to $12 billion in that first week. Great. But disastrously, it appears that President Donald Trump not only underestimated Iran's military capability and resolve, but he also underestimated just how much this war would end up costing the American people. So The Intercept put out this fantastic report. I highly recommend you read the whole thing, but for the purposes of saving time, I'll read you the relevant excerpts. So Nick Terse over at The Intercept writes that initial estimates of the first 100 hours of the war tacked on $3.7 billion in operational costs, munitions, and damaged or destroyed equipment, according to a cost breakdown by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS. This and other estimates turned out to be drastic undercounts, as Pentagon officials in classified briefings disclosed that the military burned through $5.6 billion worth of munitions in just the first 2 days of the war. The Center for Strategic and International Studies, they're the ones who advised the Trump administration on how much this war would cost us. Fascinating. We should look into that organization. So it's a bipartisan nonprofit org. Okay, so far so good. No problems with that. Since it's a nonprofit, they have to do financial filings, which I love. I love financial filings. Oh, I jump in it all day or a day. All right. And so I looked at their financial filings. 2023 is the most recent financial filing they have available. And it turns out that the chairman of this organization, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, happens to be Thomas Pritzker. Thomas Pritzker, where have I heard that name recently? Oh, that's right. The same Thomas Pritzker who had to step down as chair of the Hyatt board because of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which we recently learned about after the Epstein files were released. Yeah, that guy. Jeffrey Epstein, the individual that was wheeling and dealing on behalf of Israel, that guy. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. So the billionaire Thomas Pritzker has stepped down as executive chair of the hotel chain Hyatt after revelations over his ties with the late child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Files released by the US Department of Justice showed that Pritzker was in regular contact with Epstein after his 2008 plea deal for procuring a minor for prostitution. So in other words, this scumbag is the chair of the very organization that severely underestimated the cost of this war that the United States is fighting on behalf of Israel. Oh, by the way, Leon Panetta is also a trustee of this organization. Yeah, these are the people advising our government. Anyway, let's get back to the real cost of this war. So take a look at this video from Al Jazeera that breaks down exactly how much is spent per day, just based on the CSIS numbers.
Item 1, operations. Keeping more than 200 fighter jets in the air, a fleet of warships at sea, and artillery on the ground. About $196 million. Most of it was already budgeted. The real cost was what this war machine fired. Item 2, munitions. Over 2,600 guided weapons launched in 100 hours. Missiles, precision bombs, drones. Replacing them cost $3.1 billion. Item 3, things that broke. 3 F-15 jets destroyed by friendly fire in Kuwait. The bill came in at $359 million. Add it all up, and it's $3.7 billion for 4 days of war. Of the $3.7 billion, only $178 million was in the Pentagon's budget. Everything else, no funding source. The Trump administration is running this war on a military credit card, and Congress hasn't seen the bill yet.
Now remember, that video was based on data that was provided on the cost of this war by CSIS. It's an underestimate, severe underestimate, and they updated their analysis. They now estimate that Operation Epic Fury will cost the US a whopping, or has, it did cost the US a whopping $16.5 billion by the 12th day of the war. And honestly, judging by the obvious pro-Israel bias of this organization, I wouldn't be surprised if that is an underestimate. Now, The Intercept spoke to experts in the costs of war, lawmakers experienced with the Pentagon budget, the same Pentagon that has failed every single audit, and 2 government officials briefed on Operation Epic Fury who did speak on condition of anonymity so they can speak freely. So a 3-week conflict could cost taxpayers between $60 billion and $130 billion, according to the 2 government officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to speak freely, with both stressing that the estimates were speculative. It's a back of the napkin estimate, said one official. We are already, even before this war started, spending over $1 trillion to service our debt. This is money that we don't even have. This is just more debt that we're taking on. Like, know that.
Don't forget, Noble Mobile is saving you a ton of money. So a lot of people are signing up now and beginning to realize, what the hell, why am I paying so much to Verizon and AT&T? So your bill's only $50 a month, but it can actually be less because they give you money back if you don't use your data. So if you're paying more than $50, there's no reason to not switch. It's crazy not to switch because same phone, same number, same contacts, literally nothing changes. TYT.com/switch, TYT.com/switch. All right, we'll be right back.
A 5-week war could top out at $175 billion. 8 weeks could put the total at $250 billion. Quote, they really have no idea of the real cost, end quote, said one of the officials, noting that bookkeeping is not a Pentagon strong suit. And remember, this is the same Pentagon that Trump wants to increase the budget for from $1 trillion a year to $1.5 trillion a year. They haven't passed a single audit. Now, even though we're allegedly ahead of schedule, whatever the hell that means, according to the Trump administration and Kevin Hassett specifically, he still believes that this war is going to end in 4 to 6 weeks? I don't think so. In fact, Israel has just escalated this war by striking Iran's gas field. And as a result, Iran has retaliated, has already begun retaliating by hitting energy infrastructure in some of these Gulf countries. So things have only been escalating. Now, Trump made a series of miscalculations since the start of this war. And that's not just according to me, it's according to, who's that? Oh yeah, former US Army Major Harrison Mann. Take a look.
Nothing that Donald Trump imagined was gonna happen has come to pass. He thought it was gonna be really an overnight success, like he views his regime change operation in Venezuela. In his personal experience, he thought he was gonna do this a second time. Nobody who knows anything about Iran thought that was gonna happen though, and it's impossible to do a decapitation operation on a country with that cohesive a government and a regime. I think to a certain extent, this war is going exactly the way that Netanyahu and other boosters of this war expected, which is they wanted to draw the United States into really a really long quagmire with the goal of collapsing or fracturing the Iranian state.
And guess what? As I've shared with you previously, but I'm gonna say it again, it's important for you to know what's going on with our country, our budget, our money. Jake Sherman over at Punchbowl News noted that the White House, Pentagon, and some congressional leaders are already discussing an additional supplemental funding bill for this war. Let me read you the relevant excerpts. We've had several sources suggest the package may carry a price tag of $100 billion or more. Lawmakers see this as potentially the last must-pass bill of the year and may try to attach their own costly proposals. Reconciliation, meaning passing this bill through a simple majority in the Senate, is probably the best option for the GOP leaders because there's no chance that Democrats would allow anything to pass without a vote on ending the conflict or reining in Trump's freedom to operate. But any new spending would have to be offset with cuts elsewhere. So in other words, if they want to pass a supplemental funding bill to the tune of $100 billion in order to continue funding this devastatingly stupid war, well, then Congress would need to cut $100 billion elsewhere in the budget. So we are paying taxes for what reason? When our services, things that benefit us, the American people, continuously gets cut and we spend more and more on the Pentagon, more and more on wars. And what makes it even worse, it'd be one thing if there was actually a threat to the United States and we had to spend the money to protect our borders, to protect our country. That is not what's happening here. We are going deeper and deeper into debt to fight Israel's war, to help them build their empire. That is the truth. That is the reality of this situation. So where are they going to cut that money or that funding from? Is it going to be food assistance? Is it going to be more Medicaid cuts? Medicare cuts? I don't know. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But there are no brakes on this car until the American people rise up and say, enough, we're not doing this anymore. And as we talk about the cost of war, we also need to keep in mind how much more we will spend in the long term. So Linda Blimes, who's a former assistant secretary and chief financial officer of the US Department of Commerce, this was under Bill Clinton's administration, spoke to The Intercept and said this: enormous short-term expenses like spent munitions, the deployments of aircraft carriers, strike groups, and aircraft shot down will be eclipsed by even more significant expenditures like the long-term costs of veterans' benefits and interest on the debt to pay for the war. The ultimate cost, Blimes says, may reach into the trillions of dollars. Now, how the hell would she know that? Well, it turns out that Blimes first called attention to the immense hidden costs of America's wars in her analysis of the Iraq War, another war fought on behalf of Israel. The George W. Bush administration initially put the likely cost of the Iraq War at a measly $40 billion. By 2008, so literally just 5 years later, Blimes and economist Joseph Stiglitz discovered that the real cost would be at least $3 trillion. But even that was an underestimate. By 2021, that figure had ballooned to around $8 trillion. So as Ben Shapiro tries to propagandize Americans into believing that they're not worthy of Social Security benefits, it's going to be insolvent soon. God forbid we raise the Social Security tax cap and, keep that incredibly popular program intact. No, we need to do away with it because he's a fiscal conservative. He argued on CNN when I was on the panel that the reason why we're in debt overwhelmingly is due to Social Security. No. If you look at the maps, or at the graphs, I should say, of when the US started digging itself deeper and deeper and deeper into debt, trillions of dollars into debt, it started under the George W. Bush administration. You can't spend $8 trillion on a war on behalf of a foreign country and expect your economic health to be intact. It's that simple. Anyway, Blimes noted that there are currently 50,000 US troops deployed in the Middle East, the majority of whom are being exposed to toxins, burning oil, fumes, etc. I mean, not to forget about the mental toll of these types of deployments. As the US, Israel, and Iranian forces, strike these oil facilities, it is causing a toxic, situation in the air people are breathing. We can estimate that at least 1/3 will be claiming disability benefits under the PACT Act, she said, referring to, and this is Blimes again, referring to a landmark 2022 law expanding healthcare and benefits for our veterans exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances. Let me be very clear. Our veterans, our service members shouldn't be placed in this situation in the first place. But if they are, and since they are, they deserve any and all financial assistance if they get sick as they're forced to fight these wars, especially on behalf of a foreign country.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.
Hang on, you friends. Time for some fireworks.
Oh, goodness. We have a high energy Loki with us.
Trump said that we were going to this war for, well, actually a lot of different things. And I'm going to show you a graphic in a second of all the different things that he said we were doing the war for, including getting rid of Iran's nukes and regime change, etc. But now, stories coming out, Wall Street Journal, Daily Beast, many other outlets showing, no, in fact, none of those things are true at all, and they're not backed up by the intelligence. So let me quote the Wall Street Journal here to begin with. US officials and lawmakers with access to classified information, along with experts who have spent their careers poring over public data and government reports, say the administration's assertions are incomplete, unsubstantiated, or flat out wrong. So first, let me show you the different reasons that the administration has given. And maybe Glenn could add to some of them. So before the war began, they said this was to destroy Iran's ballistic missiles, their nuclear program, ending their relationship with proxy groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, and regime change. Okay, now we're gonna break down each one of these and show you what's wrong with every one of them. Since the war has begun, they've actually added 3, destroying Iran's IEDs, their roadside bombs, at a usually impossible Israeli standard. How would we know if they're all gone? Destroying Iran's entire navy, that's now been added to the mix, and ending Iran's quote unquote 47-year war against the US. And the way you end a war like that is that you start a new war. Oh, weird. All right, before I get to the rest of the intelligence, Glenn, what's your 2 cents on this one?
I just think it's really a good reminder for people who didn't live through 2002 and 2003, or for people who did and don't remember. This is exactly what this was like. All the same arguments, in most cases, all the same people. The reason there's no clarity about the reason for the war is because this is a senseless war. That's why there was never really a clear reason for Iraq, for Libya, for Syria either. And I think the parallels are so clear.
Yeah, the parallels are striking. We're going to talk about that in a minute. First, let me give you some more from the Wall Street Journal. They explain some lawmakers and US officials say Iran was nowhere near capable of building a nuclear weapon, even if Tehran seeks one. They also say there's no evidence to support Trump's claim that Iran could rapidly develop a missile capable of striking the US, and the accusation that Iran would preemptively attack US targets in the Middle East rested on either Israel or the US moving to strike Iran first. So if they don't strike first, there's no way Iran could have hit us. And mind you guys, this is the Wall Street Journal owned by Rupert Murdoch. So this is fascinating that they have an excellent article breaking down every lie and misdirection that has led us to this war. Even they're writing about it. So then they explain no evidence was found that Tehran's effort to field intercontinental missiles able to reach the US was close to fruition, according to a lawmaker familiar with the assessments. Recent US intelligence assessments had concluded that Iran couldn't develop dozens of missiles for at least a decade. Okay, now we go to another theoretical explanation. By Sunday, administration officials had walked back their initial claim that Iran would launch a preemptive attack on its own. So when they said that was just a flat out lie and it was wrong. So Caroline Leavitt came out and clarified, as did Marco Rubio earlier and Tom Cotton as well. She said, quote, the United States understood that Israel was going to strike Iran, and when they did, Iran would attack the United States. So that means, yes, we were pushed into this war by Israel. Thank you for the confession. We appreciate it. They go on to say that officials and analysts know that Iran does have uranium that could be enriched around the 1 week time frame to make it usable for a nuclear weapon. The issue is Iran appears to have no enrichment facility where cascades of centrifuges are assembled to enrich the material to weapons grade. Iran also would have to get access to the stockpile, which would very possibly be tracked. And even if Iran did get weapons grade uranium, it would still have to assemble scientists, produce uranium material, and build it inside a nuclear device, all without being caught doing so. Now, almost all of the claims of the administration has been knocked down. And then of course you have to remember the cost of this war. We'll talk more about the cost a little bit later in the program, but there's of course the very clear cost of lives lost, and already 6 Americans have been lost. By the way, our consulate in Dubai just got hit by the Iranians earlier today, a little bit before the show began, because they continue to attack everywhere where there are American bases. People continue to say, like, I don't know why they're doing that, including Donald Trump saying, I don't know why they're, because we attacked them. So they're hitting us anywhere they can, which is usually our bases and our consulates and our embassies. But Donald Trump acknowledged that there would be American lives lost. He said, quote, we have a virtually, and that the war would last forever, basically. He said, we have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be fought, quote, forever, and very successfully using just these supplies. So, okay, so don't worry, this war will last forever, even though it's based on absolutely nothing. So Glenn, let me bring you back in. Let's discuss the reasons they gave before the war. So regime change, kind of reminds me of Iraq a little bit. False evidence of weapons of mass destruction. In this case, oh my God, they're gonna have a nuke any second. Reminds me of Iraq a little bit. We've got to end their relationship with the proxy groups, Hamas and Hezbollah. Saddam had relationships with Hamas and Hezbollah, and we were told about that. But a new one that they did not have the temerity to mention in the Iraq war lead-up, which is destroying all of their missiles. So let's start there. What's your take on their initial reasons for the war?
You know, I actually think, and especially as you went through all that the lies that are being told, all of them to justify this new war with Iran are even more transparent and brazen and insulting to the public's intelligence than the ones that we heard in 2002 and 2003 with respect to Iraq. Maybe in part it's because we have the insight retrospectively to understand the way in which governments lie to us about these exact issues, because the script and the playbook is almost identical. But I think it's beyond that, Cenk. Like, what's really maddening to me, it's driving me crazy. And I don't know if you listened to Trump's press briefing today when he was sitting next to the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, who was basically more or less in support of this war. But Trump was making up just absolute fabrication, saying that Obama did a deal with them that allowed them to get the highest grade nuclear weapons, that had we not attacked back last June, they were about a minute away from getting a nuclear weapon. They would have used it against Israel and other countries and maybe even the US. Wild, wild claims. And what's so frustrating about it is back in June, when the United States did that one-day bombing campaign along with Israel in the middle of Israel's war on Iran, President Trump did what he always does, which is he tries to claim that he was just responsible for the greatest victory in history. Nothing like it has ever been seen. And a lot of reporters were saying, well, how do you know for sure that you've actually totally obliterated their nuclear program? How do you know that we're not going to be back in a few months and hearing that we have to go to war with Iran again to obliterate their nuclear program? And he said, you're lying, this is fake news, you're disrespecting the pilots. And they're still up on the White House website, a very boisterous document that says the United States completely obliterated Iran's nuclear program and any claims to the contrary are fake news. And now here we are 9 months later with the main argument for why we need this massive regional conflagration that already has escalated and might escalate way further, that we have to go and stop Iran from getting nukes when we were just told 10 months ago that we did exactly that.
Don't forget, Noble Mobile saving you a ton of money. So a lot of people are signing up now and beginning to realize, what the hell, why am I paying so much to Verizon and AT&T? So your bill's only $50 a month, but it can actually be
Iran is not going to start a direct war with the United States. Even the US government couldn't claim that they were about to attack us, and that's why they had to admit that they would only attack us if Israel attacked them. These ballistic missiles are a threat to only one country, Israel. Even Trump said last June when Israel attacked Iran that the Israelis got hit extremely hard. Buildings were falling in Tel Aviv and elsewhere because of these ballistic missiles. We are at war if it's because of ballistic missiles. That is a war for Israel. Those weapons are a threat only to Israel. They're really a deterrent, is what they are to Israel attacking. Israel attacking Iran knows that they're going to have to pay a cost. So of course Israel wants to get rid of those ballistic missiles so they can attack Iran at will with no price to pay. Why are our soldiers dying for that?
Yeah, literally the only way that their ballistic missiles could hit us is if we start a war with them. So why did we start a war? So we could get hit? That makes no sense at all. The only way it makes sense is if you're doing this war for Israel. That is absolutely right. And Glenn, of the things that drive us crazy, you're right. And the media does this all the time. Collective amnesia overnight, right? Oh, all the facilities are destroyed. And never mind, it's for the nukes, and we're barely questioning that. The other thing that drives me crazy about the media. So nowadays, in online media, we're all over the place, and they can't contain us, right? But in television, I still see almost no opponents of the war on television. And these are the same guys, Glenn, that told us, oh, lessons learned from the Iraq war. We're never going to make that mistake again. And just by trumpeting all of the official government officials and politicians and the pro-Israel factions within the media, which is about 98% of the media, here they are doing it again, aren't they?
Yeah, Cenk, I'm sure you remember this, but I do think that the largest part of the corporate media genuinely does hate Trump. I don't think they hate the Republican Party or conservatives. I think they hate Donald Trump for all sorts of reasons, valid or otherwise. But the one time they actually stopped and praised him and refrained from criticizing him in the first term and even said, this means he's really our president, is when he bombed Syria. There's literally nothing that the corporate media loves more than when the United States goes to war. It's not just because they get higher ratings, which they absolutely do, and that is part of it, and they become more important in our daily lives when there's actually a war that they get to cover and everybody tunes in to find out what's going on. And it's exciting for them, more exciting than covering, say, a budget shutdown or just the standard things that happen in Washington. But war propaganda is designed to trigger our most primal instinct. It's incredibly powerful. It's really a science developed over many decades, really many centuries. We are tribal beings, and these journalists who live in Washington are around the people who are starting the wars, whose sources are all these generals and people inside the US security state and inside the Senate, like Chuck Schumer, not just Republicans, although them too, who favor this war. They're in their ear all the time, and they're more drowning in propaganda in favor of this war than anybody else is. And so that's what they go on camera and transmit. It's like this perfect storm. And you see how quickly that, despite how much they hate Trump and still hate Trump, that gets instantly overwhelmed by the far more compelling imperative that they love new wars. They always have. And Probably they always will. And I do think that's one of the main reasons, Cenk, that they have lost the faith and trust of the American people. Certainly COVID and the financial crisis contributed to that. But everybody knows that they lied the country into a war in 2002 and 2003, excluded dissent almost entirely. And they're repeating, again, not just the same media practices now of excluding dissent and keeping war opponents off the air. The script itself is identical, as you know well, and as I know well, and anybody who lived through that period and paid a lot of attention to it or wrote about it or studied it or reported on it knows well as well. It's shocking that they're not even bothering to change it, even like as a pretense, even trivially.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But don't worry, later Jake Tapper will write a book. No one could have known this was for Israel. Okay, or the same exact thing.
Or based on lies. Like, I can't believe it. It was based on lies.
Yeah, exactly. So now speaking of lies, I'm gonna show you a Marco Rubio clip in a second. But I wanted to first go to the new justifications. We have to destroy their entire Navy. My favorite is we didn't start this war. Hegseth said that yesterday, and now almost all of the puppets are saying it. And Netanyahu himself said it to Sean Hannity. No. This war's been going on for 47 years. So my sense of that is because the reason they're bringing that out is because since this is so obviously for Israel, and Rubio and others have admitted that it was for Israel, now they have to put out a new document. No. It is for America. It is for America. Why? Oh, because Iran started the war 47 years ago, and we've been fighting that war. Now Donald Trump's going to finish it, right? So that's my sense of why they do that. But have you ever heard a goal as absurd as knocking out all their roadside bombs? What is that? Let alone their entire Navy.
30 seconds before you attack.
I mean, they, as you said, they need desperately to find, especially now that Rubio accidentally revealed the truth and that other officials and senators in support of the war did too, because again, even given how much you can lie in American discourse, especially about wars, nobody would have believed had they come out and said, oh, Iran was about to attack us. Like nobody would believe that the Iranian government would just decide to provoke and start a war with the United States. So in lieu of saying that, they kind of got twisted and they said, oh, well, the reason they were going to attack us was because Israel was going to attack them. So we had to go and attack them because of Israel, essentially. We couldn't constrain them. We didn't try to constrain them. This is a war that we had to fight because of what Israel did and what Israel was going to do. And now they're desperate to change that narrative and try and convince, especially their own base, but the country at large, oh no, soldiers aren't dying for Israel. They're actually, this is a government and a country that was threatening the United States. And Cenk, they're going back like to 1979 with the hostage crisis, or in the early 1980s with Hezbollah bombings, and now trying to convince Americans that this is a country that we've been at war at for 47 years, even though Donald Trump was president already for 4 years and never mentioned that we were at war with Iran. He bombed one general, but he certainly didn't treat Iran as though we were a country at war with them. He didn't run on a platform in 2024. Hey, by the way, we're at war with Iran and we're going to now go and bomb them. You would think if we were really at war with Iran for 47 years, this would have been mentioned at some point before about 3 seconds ago when Israel decided it was ready for a new war and Trump jumped on board. I think, Cenk, I really do. You already saw that the polls for Trump have been plummeting. And the reason is that Trump won because of his argument that he was going to improve the material lives of American citizens, in large part, by no longer devoting our resources and draining our resources into foreign wars, especially regime change wars of the exact kind that he's now pursuing. And people believed that, and they were waiting for these material improvements. Instead, the first term of the Trump presidency, other than closing the border, which you can say is a success based on what he promised, we've had bombing Yemen, insane focus on Israel and Gaza, constant focus on Russia and Ukraine, and now a major new war in Iran, concealing the Epstein files. This has nothing to do with the lives of American citizens. And I think Republicans know that they're petrified that this is the kind of war that has destroyed presidencies in the past. And this was a presidency that was already so fragile. So now they're just groping around trying to say, oh, we had to do this war for you Americans, because had we not done so, you would and your families would have been endangered. And I just don't think anybody is gonna believe it.
Yeah, I've seen some people online calling it Operation Epstein's Fury. And the reason why you would constantly change your rationale for the war is because you have a different rationale that you're not willing to share with the American people. That's why, right? So finally, we get to Marco Rubio today. He's in a bit of a panic, and I think he makes a mistake here. Let's watch this.
Let me explain to you guys this in simple English, okay? Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics. They have an ambition to have nuclear weapons. They intend to develop those nuclear weapons behind a program of missiles and drones and terrorism that the world will not be able to touch them for fear of those things. And this is the weakest they've ever been. Now is the time to go after them. The president made the decision to go after them, take away their missiles, take away their navy, take away their drones, take away their ability to make those things so that they can never have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president made this decision. It was the right decision, and the world will be a safer place when these radical clerics no longer have access to these weapons.
So it's interesting because he talked about how like they were a religious cult, and I'm like, well, a lot of the Israeli cabinet is a religious cult that believes that God promised them greater Israel, and that's part of the reason for these wars. They're endangering the Middle East. No, wait, Israel's endangering the Middle East. But he said that at one point in that press conference there, that Iran is at its weakest point now, and that's why it was good to attack. But wait, Glenn, we were told that Iran was so close to attacking and they were at their maximum power and we had to go right away. But now, wait a minute, all of a sudden they're at their weakest? So which one is it?
I mean, I think Marco Rubio has been around Washington for a long time. He's usually pretty calm and, like sober and cogent as a speaker. That might have been the most kind of flailing and desperate I've ever seen him be, where he was basically just throwing very emotionally packed adjectives around out of desperation that he doesn't have a coherent argument that wouldn't contradict a million things he said a million times previously. These are lunatics, these are religious fanatics. What has Iran ever done that has demonstrated, for example, the kind of suicidal willingness to just blow their whole country up to kill all of Israel or the United States? They've been incredibly restrained over the last decade as the United States and Israel have repeatedly attacked them, including in the last war and in the times that Israel bombed them before that. They purposely didn't use their most powerful missiles. They did everything to avoid escalation. As you suggested, Cenk, there is a lunatic, highly religious, fanatical country in that region that actually already has nuclear weapons, a huge stockpile of them, and that is Israel. And I think that is the country by far that the world fears most. And then right after that comes the United States, which, has just continues to fight 8, 9, 10 wars a year. And I think it's really worth contrasting it with China, which I am not a big fan of in terms of, say, wanting to live there or their domestic policies. But it is amazing that China has not fought a single war since 1979. That is 47 years when we've been invading and attacking. And what did they have to show for it? Mass, high-speed rail and incredibly sophisticated cities and brand new infrastructure and the leading cutting edge of all kinds of research and science and technology, which is what happens when you pour your resources into your own citizens and into your country and not into these foreign wars for foreign interests.
Yep. So ironically, we could be a little bit better off if we did like Israel and took care of ourselves instead of others. Let alone forget taking care of others. Just stop invading others and attacking others, especially on behalf of foreign governments.
If they have children, think about what this world would look like if you didn't have Donald Trump as the president. Because in a year, if you had someone who didn't have the courage to
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one. Round 1.
If this is how the universe ends, I shall go down fighting. Speed is everything.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
The winds may not be blowing in our favor, Eric.
When has that ever stopped us before?
Sup, you beautiful bastards. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, your daily dive into the news. It is Thursday, and there's a lot we need to talk about today. But first, a quick announcement. Tomorrow, on Friday, you'll be getting another Philip DeFranco Show. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you have all notifications turned on, and hey, maybe even join the text line, 813-213-4423. With that said, we've got a lot to talk about right now, starting with this. The former director of the National Counterterrorism Center just went on Tucker Carlson and said that there was zero U.S. intelligence showing Iran posed an imminent threat. We're saying that we're being lied to. He said that Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon. He said everyone in the intelligence community knew that striking Iran would endanger U.S. allies and shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And he said that key decision makers were shut out of the room before Trump gave the order. This is Joe Kent. He is a Trump appointee. He's MAGA, and the FBI is now investigating him. So let's get into what he said. Let's get into the baggage that comes with him and why it matters. Because before we dive into the interview, you need to know some things about Kent, because this isn't just kind of a simple whistleblower story. Kent is not a career bureaucrat who turned on Trump after years of institutional loyalty. He is literally a Trump appointee who is MAGA through and through, which arguably makes this even more notable that he's speaking out, but it does come with real baggage. During his failed 2021 congressional campaign, Kent had a call with white nationalist Nick Fuentes. He hired a Proud Boys member as a campaign consultant. He worked closely with the founder of a Christian nationalist group, and he did an interview with a neo-Nazi blogger, though he's also tried to distance himself from the Nazi sympathizers in that orbit. He's also embraced conspiracy theories, right, calling the COVID vaccine an experimental gene therapy. He claimed that the 2020 election was stolen, and he said that the January 6th insurrection was instigated by federal agents. And in his resignation letter, while containing real substantive claims, he also veered into what a number of people have called conspiratorial territory, because he framed Israel's role not just as influence, but as a sweeping misinformation campaign that Trump was helpless against. And he claimed that the 2003 invasion of Iraq was the result of an Israeli lie. So that's why you've maybe seen a lot of people across the political spectrum accusing him of crossing from legitimate criticism of Israel into explicit anti-Semitism. And I preface all that not because I want you to throw out everything he says, right? He was very high up in the administration. He was close to the operations of this war, but also I think just as part of my job, you need to know who he is so you can decide for yourself how to weigh in on what he's claiming. And so with all that said, right, Ken's central claim is that there was no intelligence showing Iran was about to attack the United States. None.
I think this is key. I mean, this would be more challenging to explain had the Secretary of State, the President, and the Speaker of the House not come out and said that we conducted this attack at this time because the Israelis were about to do so. So that takes away the argument that there was an imminent threat, as in Iran was planning to attack us immediately. That just simply did not exist.
Kent also said that Trump essentially created a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? There was no intelligence showing that Iran posed a threat unless the U.S. went after them first in a way that threatened the regime. So by doing exactly that, Trump manufactured the danger that didn't exist before.
But there was no intelligence that said, hey, on whatever day it was, March 1st, the Iranians are going to launch this big sneak attack. They're going to do some kind of a 9/11 Pearl Harbor, et cetera. They're going to attack one of our bases. There was none of that intelligence.
Then on the nuclear threat, which has been the administration's other justification, Kent was equally direct.
Was Iran on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon?
No, they weren't, 3 weeks ago when this started, and they weren't in June either. I mean, the Iranians have had a religious ruling, a fatwa, against actually developing a nuclear weapon since 2004. That's been in place since 2004. That's available in the public sphere. But then also we had no intelligence to indicate that fatwa was being disobeyed or it was on the cusp of being lifted. So the Iranians' position, when viewed from the lens of the region, was actually fairly pragmatic. They were preventing, themselves from developing a bomb, but they still wanted the ability. They wanted the ability to enrich. They wanted the ability to have some components so that they weren't completely stripped of it.
Kent then also directly contradicted Trump's repeated claims that nobody predicted the fallout, right? The attack on allies, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
Because it's well known what the Iranians' plans were. We knew that they were going to hit potentially our bases in the region, potentially our allies. We knew about the Straits of Hormuz. All of these things I think were fairly well known.
And you had Kent saying that the problem wasn't a lack of intelligence. It was that key people were kept out of the room, claiming that in the lead up to the war, a good deal of key decision makers were not allowed to come and express their opinion to Trump, saying there had been a robust debate before previous escalations with Iran, but not this time. And noting that when key security officials are not involved, the kind of intelligence that gets passed up to the president is very different depending on who delivers it.
And without a level set from the intelligence community, someone like D.N.I. Gabbard coming in and saying, Mr. President, here's the full scope of the intelligence, and what it means, you're kind of lacking that sanity check.
And then also went after the regime change argument, right? Saying the U.S. actively undermined its own stated goal by killing the supreme leader.
If we struck the regime, it would only strengthen it. And that's not, I think that's just basic common sense. If we do want a real regime change and we want the people to rise up and want it to happen fairly organically, going aggressively after the Ayatollah was the last thing that we ever should have done. Again, like, I'm no fan of the former supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. However, he was moderating their nuclear program. He was preventing them from getting a nuclear weapon. If you take him out, if you kill him aggressively, people are going to rally around that regime. And the next Ayatollah that you get, and I think this is the case by all data that we have with his son, the next Ayatollah that you get is going to be more radical.
Throughout the interview, both Kent and Carlson, they focused heavily on Israel's role, arguing that Israel pulled the U.S. into this war and they're driving American policy in the Middle East.
The Israelis drove the decision to take this action, which we knew would set off a series of events, meaning the Iranians would retaliate. And I think this speaks to the broader issue. Who's in charge of our policy in the Middle East? Who's in charge of when we decide to go to war or not?
There is real substance to the claim that the United States got wrapped up in this war in part because of Israel. But then also, Kent and Carlson repeatedly crossed into what many see as conspiracy territory, most notably when Kent appeared to imply that Israel may have been involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination or in blocking the investigation into it, with Kent claiming that the DOJ prevented his office from investigating foreign ties in Kirk's assassination.
President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis. And then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that.
You also had Kent appearing to try to walk that back, saying that he wasn't drawing conclusions and there were just unanswered questions here. But the implication for many was clear enough. Now, Trump and his administration, they've tried to dismiss Kent, downplay his significance. They've tried to paint him as disloyal, with Trump himself saying,
I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat.
And now the FBI is reportedly investigating Kent for a possible intelligence leak, with sources saying that the investigation was opened before his resignation, but plenty of experts are speculating that regardless of the timeline, Trump's going to try to use this to go after Kent the same way that he's targeted other perceived enemies. And then there's more we've got to dive into in just a minute, but first, let me thank a sponsor and say, the hardest part of launching something, it's not usually the idea. I mean, really think about it. If you've been waiting for the right time to launch your side hustle or business site, the time's now. Because, I get it. Building your website, it can feel way bigger than it actually is. But thanks to today's sponsor, Squarespace, my book club was a someday project that went live in under an hour. My team even uses Squarespace for our Daily Dip newsletter, where tens of thousands of y'all get your PDS fix in your inbox every weekday. New polls, giveaways, PDS show notes, all run through Squarespace. And like clockwork, another Daily Dip issue went out this morning, and your project could be next. And it could be easier to do whatever you want, whether it's showcasing or selling content, courses, physical or digital products, whatever you're dreaming of. Also, a big thing that pops up, you want one-time payments, subscriptions, both, done and done. They're amazing templates. Will make it look like you hired a designer, and their Fluid Engine editor, it lets you drag, drop, customize, no coding, no stress, no excuses. So hey, take that first step today with a free trial at squarespace.com/Phil, or scan that QR code. Today is launch day. Just remember, when you're ready to go live, use code Phil to get 10% off and let them know we sent you. But then, diving right back into the news, Donald Trump may have lied about American knowledge of an Israeli attack on the world's largest natural gas field, an attack that may be bringing the war into a new phase in which oil and gas facilities are prime targets. And despite claims that the war is on track, the Pentagon's now asking for another $200 billion to fight it, while thousands more troops may soon be on their way to the Middle East. But also with that, where we should start is by talking about how much this war has already cost. Because a week after the US and Israel attacked Iran, Pentagon officials told lawmakers in a closed-door briefing that the cost of the war had exceeded $11.3 billion in its first 6 days. But also, reportedly, the estimate appeared largely limited to munitions expenditures and not the full cost of the opening days of the conflict, which would include forces deployed to the region, medical expenses, and the replacement of military aircraft lost in combat. And so you have the Center for Strategic and International Studies estimating that the true cost would have been around $12.7 billion. And you have The Guardian reporting that the first 6 days of the war therefore cost the same as 1 year of paying 9% of the country's elementary school teachers, medical care for 693,000 veterans, 1.5 million public housing units, or Medicaid for 3.6 million children. And of course now, we're on day 20. And so that center, it estimates that the total has now exceeded $18 billion, with the bill growing by roughly $500 million every day. So it's actually going up slower than the first first days of the war, largely because many of those strikes were carried out with some of the most expensive weapons in the country's arsenal. A single Tomahawk cruise missile, for example, like the one believed to have hit an elementary school and killed 175 people, it costs around $3.5 million. And the US is believed to have fired over 300 of them in the first 6 days of the war. The Pentagon having since moved mostly over to cheaper, shorter range weapons, although, of course, the damage is already done. And that is apparently why it's now asking the White House to approve a more than $200 billion request to Congress to fund the war in Iran, right? Because the request is reportedly aimed at urgently increasing production of critical weaponry expended as US and Israeli forces have struck thousands of targets in Iran over the past 3 weeks. And that, as it remains unclear exactly how much the White House is going to ultimately ask Congress to approve. Though Trump, he has confirmed it will be in the hundreds of billions of dollars range. And that also appears to be on top of the $1.5 trillion defense budget that he said he'd be asking for at the beginning of the year, a more than 50% increase from the previous year. And while getting all of that, it could be an uphill battle in Congress. I mean, whatever amount is ultimately approved, it will then also take time for the defense industry to increase production, with how long, depending on the availability of workers, production facilities, and materials needed to build the military's most advanced weaponry. Or the Pentagon's former acting comptroller, who now analyzes the defense budget at the American Enterprise Institute, telling the Washington Post, just throwing lots of money into the industrial base doesn't necessarily get you things sooner, but you're definitely not going to get it sooner if you don't. Though also, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth apparently sees it more simply, saying in a press briefing this morning,
as far as $200 billion, I think that number could move, obviously. It takes money to kill bad guys.
Hegseth also accused Joe Biden of depleting U.S. weapons stockpiles by providing equipment to Ukraine following Russia's full-scale invasion of the country in 2022. Although notably, Biden mainly gave ground-based armaments and vehicles to Ukraine, not Tomahawk missiles, which are far more expensive. And overall, as of December, Congress has reportedly approved roughly $188 billion of spending for the war in Ukraine over the 4+ years that it's been ongoing. Though you also may have heard a different number because you had Trump claiming today that the number was actually $350 billion. With Trump also blaming Biden, saying that he gave away that money so stupidly. But then, going back to Hegseth, he also claimed today that the U.S. would be delivering the largest strike package yet in the war, and he continued to claim that this wouldn't be another forever war.
Hear it from me, one of hundreds of thousands who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, who watched previous foolish politicians like Bush, Obama, and Biden squander American credibility. This is not those wars. President Trump knows better.
Then, of course, he declined to say when or how the war in Iran could end, other than saying that the U.S. was very much on track and that it's pretty much just up to Trump.
It will be at the president's choosing, ultimately, where we say, hey, we've achieved what we need to on behalf of the American people to ensure our security. So no time set on that, but we're very much on track.
But with that, despite things apparently being on track, Trump's reportedly considering deploying thousands of troops to reinforce his operation in the Middle East. And this is apparently in addition to reinforcements already on their way, including more than 2,000 Marines who are expected to arrive next week. And these new troops would apparently be meant to give him additional options as he weighs expanding American operations in the region. Or with one option being that they would take part in the mission to secure safe passage for oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. Something sources told Reuters would be accomplished mainly through air and naval forces, but could also mean deploying troops to Iran's shoreline. And the administration has also talked about sending ground forces to siege Karg Island, the hub for 90% of Iran's oil exports. And it has also discussed the possibility of putting boots on the ground to secure Iran's stocks of highly enriched uranium. The Secretary of State Marco Rubio telling Congress more than a week ago that at some point people are going to have to go and get it. But this would also apparently be one of the riskiest military operations in modern American history, not least because, one, no one knows for sure where it is. 2, if the canisters holding it are pierced, the escapement gas would be both toxic and radioactive. And 3, if they come too close together, there is the risk of an accelerating nuclear reaction. Now, with that, you had Trump telling reporters on Tuesday that the ground operations didn't worry him, saying, I'm not really afraid of that. I'm really not afraid of anything. But of course, that's really fucking easy to say when you're not the one risking your life. But that said, for now, this is very much still an air war. And some of the latest strikes are threatening to bring this war into a new phase that could have an even bigger impact on energy prices and everything connected to that. Right? Because as we talked about yesterday, airstrikes hit Iran's South Pars gas field, which is the world's largest natural gas field and contributes to as much as 70% of Iran's total gas production. Now, Iran and Qatar, they accused Israel of the attack, with Iran's Revolutionary Guards warning people to stay away from oil and gas facilities in countries including Qatar, as well as Saudi Arabia and the UAE. And then, over the next several hours, apparent Iranian attacks damaged the world's largest liquefied natural gas facility in Qatar, which processes about 1/5 of the world's liquefied natural gas. And then you also had strikes causing fires at 2 state-owned refineries in Kuwait and hitting a key energy export terminal in Saudi Arabia, with officials in the UAE reporting that it had also responded to incidents at gas facilities in an oil field caused by debris from intercepted missiles. And so then in response, you had the Qatari Foreign Ministry ordering Iran's military and security attachés, along with their staff, to leave the country within 24 hours. And you also had the Saudi Foreign Minister warning Iran that his country, as well as others in the region, have very significant capacities and capabilities that they could bring to bear should they choose to do so. And then on the US side, you had Trump seemingly trying to de-escalate things with a post on social media yesterday, specifically in response to the strike on the Qatari LNG LNG facility. Writing, Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran, and then adding, the United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Oh, notably with that, you had Axios reporting earlier that while the strike on the gas field was carried out by the Israeli Air Force, it was coordinated with and approved by the Trump administration, with this being based on conversations with both U.S. and Israeli officials. And then afterward, you also had Reuters reporting the same, speaking to 3 Israeli officials who said that the U.S. knew all about it, or which would make sense because the Trump administration previously objected to Israel's earlier strikes on oil depots in Tehran and demanded that Israel not hit energy infrastructure again without U.S. approval. And then with that in mind, in his post, you also had Trump promising that, in all caps, no more attacks will be made by Israel against the South Pars field unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar. With him then threatening that if that happened, he would massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. And then adding to that, I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran. But if Qatar's LNG is again attacked, I will not hesitate to do so. But also with that, speaking of long-term implications, there's no avoiding them at this point. The strikes that hit the gas field yesterday, they reportedly did damage to areas that make up nearly 12% of Iran's total gas production. And even without that damage, Iran has dealt with crippling gas and electricity shortages for decades. And over the past few months, power plants across the country, they have increasingly been turning to burning something called mazu, which has been described as a bottom-of-the-barrel crude oil residue, and it's actually banned in much of the world because of just how toxic it is. And so this had actually created an air pollution emergency even before the US and Israel attacked. And then a severe drought didn't help matters, and of course the war just makes the situation even worse. And then actually, on that note, the Climate Action Network, which is an umbrella group of more than 1,900 civil society organizations in over 130 countries, they claim today that the US-Israeli attack on Iran meets the criteria for ecocide, saying in a statement, the attacks on Iran's oil storage facilities have unleashed massive health and environmental harm. Burning fuel depots poison air, land, water, and lungs that will linger in the atmosphere long after the bombing stops. And adding corporations, financial institutions, and the arms industry form part of the same fossil-fueled war economy that profits from destruction while also accelerating climate breakdown. And with that, there are people that are making a lot of money here, even if most of us are losing out. These latest attacks, they sent the price of oil jumping by nearly 10% to $119 a barrel this morning. You've got European natural gas prices surging by about 25%. And that was before we started to get an idea of the extent of the damage of the Qatari LNG facility. But Iran's attacks reportedly knocked out 17% of the country's LNG export capacity for up to 5 years. That's at the very least going to cause an estimated $20 billion in lost annual revenue. And just like Trump, you had Iran's foreign minister threatening to do more damage if its own facilities were attacked again, saying, our response to Israel's attack on our infrastructure employed fraction of our power. The only reason for restraint was respect for requested de-escalation. Zero restraint if our infrastructures are struck again. And then on another side of this, you had the UK, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Japan issuing a joint statement calling for de-escalation. Though notably absent from that was any explicit condemnation of the US or Israel, saying, we condemn in the strongest terms recent attacks by Iran on unarmed commercial vessels in the Gulf, attacks on civilian infrastructure, including oil and gas installations, and the de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz by Iranian forces, and adding, we express our readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait. We welcome the commitment of nations who are engaging in preparatory planning. Though to be very clear, there is still no sign that any of these countries are actually on board with Trump's idea to have them escort ships through the strait while there's an active conflict. And actually, on the note of Trump and NATO allies, you had him this morning taking a friendly tone with the Japanese Prime Minister at the White House today, despite her position being virtually the same as NATO's.
We've had tremendous support and relationship with Japan on everything. And I believe that based on statements that were given to us yesterday, the day before yesterday, having to do with Japan, they are really stepping up to the plate, unlike NATO.
Although the whole thing took a turn because he had this to say when asked about why he didn't inform allies ahead of the attack on Iran.
We went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay, right? He's asking me. Now you believe in surprise. I think much more so than us.
So yeah, that happened on top of everything else. That is the man that so much about what happens next depends on. But then also we should talk about the risk of this war on us here at home. Right? We've got unidentified drones flying over the Army base in Washington where the Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense live. Right? Military bases in New Jersey and Florida have raised their threat levels to the second highest designation. The US Embassy in Saudi Arabia has been hit by drones, and some experts are now openly asking whether the Trump administration might actually benefit from an attack on American soil. That is where we are right now. Now, as far as the specifics with the drones, Fort Leslie J. McNair is an Army base in Washington, D.C. D.C., and Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, they both live there. And according to a senior administration official, unidentified drones appeared above the base on a single night sometime in the last 10 days. So that sparked increased security and conversations about moving the two, though as of now, reportedly they haven't been moved. But then with that, you had the chief Pentagon spokesperson, Sean Parnell, declining to comment, saying the department cannot comment on the secretary's movements for security reasons, and reporting on such movements is grossly irresponsible, with the State Department also not commenting either. Right, a big thing with this is that drone threats, they are straight out of Iran's playbook. After the US killed a prominent Iranian general back in 2020, there were similar incidents involving Donald Trump and other officials. Also during the 2024 campaign, the Secret Service repeatedly encountered unidentified drones near Trump's team during a press conference in LA and a motorcade through rural Pennsylvania. And with all this, in September, you had officials telling Trump that Iran wanted to kill him. Right, and these newest drone sightings are happening as threats to domestic bases and overseas diplomatic posts have escalated to the point of a global security alert. This week, Joint Base McGuire, Dix, Lakehurst in New Jersey, and MacDill Air Force Base in Florida both raised their force protection level to the second highest designation, meaning that the commander has intelligence indicating an attack is possible. Right, MacDill has actually gone into lockdown twice this week. Monday for a suspicious package that closed the visitor center for hours, and on Wednesday for an unspecified security event that triggered an hours-long shelter in place. And the big thing is that MacDill is home to U.S. Central Command, the headquarters running military operations against Iran. So, the fact that it's on heightened alert, it's not just procedural. And then overseas, it's worse. On Tuesday, the State Department ordered all diplomatic posts worldwide to immediately undertake security evaluations, citing the ongoing and developing situation in the Middle East and the potential for spillover effects. Also, earlier this month, a suspected Iranian drone struck the parking lot of the U.S. consulate in Dubai, sparking a fire with massive plumes of black smoke, with Rubio saying that all personnel were accounted for, but also added, our embassies and our diplomatic facilities are under direct attack from a terroristic regime. Also, Saudi Arabia's defense ministry said that the American embassy in Riyadh was hit by 2 drones, resulting in minor damage and the embassy closing. Iranian missile and drone attacks have also caused explosions in Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE, and other countries where the U.S. has military bases. And none of this was unforeseeable. You've got the New York Times reporting that Western security officials were concerned even before the initial strike that Iran could use proxies to conduct retaliatory attacks against American and European targets. Colin Clark, the executive director of the Soufan Center, said at the time, if the U.S. military campaign against Iran is existential for the supreme leader and the most senior members of the IRGC, I would fully expect Tehran to order terror attacks abroad, including in Europe. The U.S. killed the supreme leader. Trump's been talking about wiping out the rest of the regime, so this concern isn't just a hypothetical thing anymore. And it's also where the conversation kind of takes a turn, right? That we need to be honest about, even though it's uncomfortable. Right? Because you have some people speculating that the Trump administration might actually benefit from an attack on American soil. With, for example, The Guardian highlighting that such an attack could give Trump a pretext to declare a state of emergency or even cancel the midterms. With Yale historian Timothy Snyder writing, self-terrorism might not have been the initial aim, but as time goes by and failures and atrocities mount, its appeal will grow. Trump could think that he has much to gain. The war itself makes terrorism more likely. And then also you had Stephen Cash, the executive director of the Steady State, a group of retired national security officers, putting it more directly, saying, of course, there's going to be retaliation. It's a rational response on their part. And then also adding, it may be that this is what Trump's interested in. He has spent a year trying to convince Americans that we are facing a terrible domestic threat. Suddenly, this unprecedented and unprovoked attack on another country, probably in violation of the Constitution and international law, is going to create the very conditions that he unsuccessfully tried to convince us would justify extraordinary powers of the presidency. Now, to be clear, nobody, and that includes myself, is saying that the administration is actively inviting an attack, but starting a war that will provoke retaliation while simultaneously building the legal and political framework to expand presidential power in the event of a domestic crisis is a pattern that serious people in the national security world are pointing at and saying, look at this fucking please. And whether this setup is intentional or it is just the logical consequence of reckless decision-making, it doesn't matter. The threat is real. The conditions are being created, and the same administration that didn't plan for the Strait of Hormuz is now responsible for protecting the homeland from the blowback. Right, but then from that, as we kind of wind down today's show, I want to end with a congratulations and then one final piece of news. So first, let me say congrats to April V, SeatGeek's latest weekly winner, who just scored $500 in tickets and is going to see Mitski live. And for the rest of y'all, that's right. SeatGeek is still giving away $500 in tickets, and you should definitely enter today if you haven't already. Imagine being the next winner and snagging $500 towards seeing your favorite artist, sporting event, or play. I mean, there's like over 70,000 events to choose from. You just got to add code DeFranco to your SeatGeek app profile for a chance at the weekly $500 prize. No purchase necessary. But with that said, that brings us to the final thing today, and that is that Democrats just stormed out of a closed-door meeting with Attorney General Pam Bondi over the Epstein files. Where they say that she refused to commit to appearing for her subpoenaed deposition. The committee chairman called a congresswoman's questioning bitching, and a second set of impeachment articles against Bondi dropped this week. Meanwhile, Epstein's longtime longtime lawyers testifying today. Bondi's deposition is supposedly set for April 14th, and we are still exactly where we've been for months. Like lots of political theater, zero accountability. But as far as the briefing, you had Bondi sitting down with the House Oversight Committee yesterday for what was supposed to be a closed-door briefing on the DOJ's handling of the Epstein investigation. Democrats, they say it was a setup from the start. They claim that they only learned about the briefing at the last minute. There was no press, no transcribers, Bondi wasn't under oath, no opening statements. Members were just given 3 minutes each to ask questions. Democrats believe Bondi held this briefing specifically to try to get out of the actual subpoena, right? The one that the committee voted on last month and that Chairman James Comer formally issued this week, asking her to testify under oath on April 14th. And when asked whether she would show up for it, Democrats say that Bondi would only say that she would follow the law.
She would not say yes. Filibuster, filibuster, filibuster would not say yes.
And it was clear from the minute it started that the Attorney General is trying to evade and not attend the mandated subpoena that is put in place.
We want her under oath because we do not trust her. Why don't we trust her? Because she's a liar. Look at how that Judiciary Committee hearing went. She was spying on members of Congress when they were in the DOJ looking at the documents unredacted. We want her under oath because she has shown that she is involved in a cover-up.
So Democrats say, they decided not to play along with this format and use their time to simply ask Bondi if she would appear for the real deposition. But what actually kind of triggered the walkout wasn't Bondi. It was Comer. Representative Yasemin Ansari said that Congresswoman Summer Lee directed a question at the chairman about what he would do if Bondi didn't appear for her deposition. And his response?
He decided to use that opportunity to say that she was bitching, and that's when we all just had it and walked out.
And Comer confirmed the language, with his statement being, I said Democrats were bitching and wasting everyone's time because Democrats were bitching and wasting everyone's time. But you had Lee firing back saying, if Comer wants to say I'm bitching, he can do it in a sworn deposition where it's recorded and transcribed. Also with this, you had Comer telling reporters that this walkout was premeditated.
It was very disappointing what the Democrats have done. I believe that was premeditated. They came out clutching their pearls, complaining that she wasn't answering questions and things like that. The first three people to ask questions, all they did was complain. They said they wanted C-SPAN in here. They want the cameras, and very, very typical behavior.
You also had other Republicans defending Bondi, saying that she gave the briefing voluntarily. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon claiming that Bondi did answer questions, noting that she said, I will follow the law at least 6 times. Dillon also calling the Democrats' behavior that of petulant children and adding so much for wanting the truth. And of course, because all of this happened behind closed doors in a room that Bondi specifically chose to avoid press and transcribers, the public didn't get to see any of it. So again, as some desired, we are just stuck with 2 completely different versions of what happened. Though with all this, the pressure on Bondi is stacking up fast. This week, Representative Summer Lee introduced articles of impeachment against her, the second Democrat to do so this month.
She has already been obstructing justice. She has already weaponized the DOJ. The DOJ does not have the right or the privilege of withholding information from an active investigation, ignoring the laws of our land, which the Epstein Transparency Act is.
Ranking member Robert Garcia also suggested that the committee could hold her in contempt if she doesn't testify on April 14th. And all the while, the depositions are still ongoing. Today, Epstein's longtime lawyer is answering questions. So also before testifying, he wrote, I did not socialize with Mr. Epstein, and I reject as categorically false any suggestion that I knowingly facilitated or assisted Mr. Epstein in his sexual abuse or trafficking of women. A statement that many, including those on the committee, have been skeptical of given how long he worked for Epstein. For now, this is generally where we are, and we're gonna have to wait to see if April 14th changes any of this. But I will say, and this is my opinion at this point, it feels like expecting accountability from this process. It feels less like optimism and more like muscle memory of like what things should be or had been in the past. But that, my friends, you beautiful bastards, is where pretty much your Thursday Philip DeFranco show ends. They say pretty much because there's a little housekeeping here at the end. If you want to keep getting filled in right now, I got that brand new episode of Crashing Out that just released that I think you're gonna really like. Still news, which is way more opinion and reaction. Also, remember, you're getting an extra Philip DeFranco show this week. There's gonna be a Friday show tomorrow. And then next week, there's more to look forward to because in addition to the Philip DeFranco show, maybe the most unexpected interview we've done yet, we've got Scott the Woz coming on in good faith. Whatever you do, let me just say thank you for watching. I love yo faces, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.
We got a shield.
This vehicle needs our escort.
I'll take a shield, sure.
Bye-bye.
First of all, I just want to say I'm alive, and you're all witnesses. אנחנו פועלים עכשיו לא רק כדי להשמיד את הטילים הבליסטיים ואת תוכניות הגרעין שנשארו, מעט נשאר, אלא גם להשמיד את התעשיות שמאפשרות לייצר את התוכניות הללו. וכבר עכשיו, לאחר 20 יום, אני יכול לבשר לכם, לאיראן אין היום אפשרות להעשיר אורניום, ואין לה אפשרות לייצר טילים בליסטיים. אנחנו ממשיכים בריסוק היכולות הללו. אנחנו נרסק אותם עד דק, עד אפר. מוקדם מדי להגיד אם העם האיראני ינצל את התנאים שאנחנו יוצרים עבורו כדי לצאת לרחובות. אני מקווה שכך יהיה, אנחנו פועלים שכך יהיה, אבל בסופו של דבר זה יהיה תלוי רק בהם. I think the question is, will the conditions be created for such a change? I think it's too early to say, and I think in the final account, as I said, it's up to the Iranian people to show that, to choose the moment and to rise to the moment. We can create the conditions, but they have to, they have to exploit those conditions at a certain point. It is often said that you can't win, you can't do revolutions from the air. That is true. You can't do it only from the air. You can do a lot of things from the air, and we're doing, but there has to be a ground component as well. There are many possibilities for this ground component, and I take the liberty of not sharing with you all those possibilities. I think that what has to be done is to have alternative routes. Instead of going through the choke points of the Hormuz Straits and the Bab el-Mandeb Straits, in order to have the flow of oil, just have oil pipelines, gas pipelines, going west through the Arabian Peninsula, right up to Israel, right up to our Mediterranean ports, and you've just done away with the choke points for forever. That is definitely possible. So I see that as a real change that will follow this war. But I also see this war ending a lot faster than people think. Well, I'll say two things. Fact number one, Israel acted alone against the Slawiya gas compound. Fact number two, President Trump asked us to hold off on future attacks, and we're holding out. And I want to close these opening remarks with one other fake news, and that is that Israel somehow dragged the U.S. into a conflict with Iran. Does anyone really think that someone can tell President Trump what to do? Come on.
I don't know the actual mileage, but it feels like a long way from Queens.
A shield. Don't mind if I do.
Which I also find kind of interesting is that the only reason that we know that he's alive is because of Twitter. He's having to offer these proof of life, and I think it's completely embarrassing. I think it's completely humiliating for Israel. I want to show you this latest one because it's especially atrocious. I don't think I've ever seen someone so servile, so brown-nosing, bootlicking cuck of a little bit as Mike Huckabee is in this clip. He literally thanks Netanyahu for not assassinating him. That's where we're at. So watch this.
Mr. Prime Minister, I want you to know the president asked me to come and make sure you were okay.
Yes, Mike.
Even that question's kind of revealing. Like the president of the United States had to come and check on you. Are you okay? You're getting hit pretty hard over there in Tel Aviv. We weren't sure if you were still around, you know?
Yes, I'm alive.
I checked
He has to say it. The fact that he has to say it.
that, and I'm happy to see that. But he wanted to make sure because, you guys get along too well.
I know, and we shake hands with 5 fingers in each hand. But
He's even calling attention to the AI slop that he's been showing us.
I have to tell you, I'm alive, but I have this card. And don't read it. So it's a punch card.
Look at that. He's just like, this is such a power play for Netanyahu. Look what I can do to one of your esteemed politicians, Americans.
Mm-hmm. Today, I raised 2 names on the punch card. And you see how many more to go on this batch.
You know what the good news is? My name is not on the punch card.
Your name is on the list of the good guys.
Thank you.
And
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for not assassinating me. Thank you for letting me live. I'm forever your slave.
And what the president, the U.S. forces are doing is incredible. We're very proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with him and getting rid of these lunatics
would like to develop nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to every American city after wiping out Israel. They ain't gonna do that. We're wiping them out. I love it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I love it, says Mike Huckabee. I find it funny that they actually wrote this sketch out and performed it for us. Like, that's what the prime minister's been reduced to. He's got to come up with sketch ideas like he's a TikTok content creator to prove to people that he's still alive. I know, and people say that this is AI, and if that is true, I mean, then Mike Huckabee should be drawn and quartered for lying to the American people, because he's in on it too. And honestly, I would not put it past that cucker, because he is just a despicable, spineless coward, and he would totally do this. Max Blumenthal puts it pretty good. In case you missed it, U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, expresses gratitude to Benjamin Netanyahu for not including him on his assassination list. So yeah, no, people are still not convinced about this video being real. However, there are some other videos. Apparently, allegedly, Netanyahu did appear at a security cabinet meeting with like the Israeli armed forces and the IDF and the chief of staff and all these people. And there's a clip of that as well. It's like they've been listening to what the opposition's been saying and how we're all not convinced, and they're like, all right, we got to get Milikowski at a security cabinet meeting, making it look like he's in charge. On top of that, Mike Huckabee posts this photo as further proof of life, and he says, my meeting with Israeli Prime Minister was today. He sure looked alive and was in great spirits. News to the contrary, phony as a kosher pork chop. That's so funny. That's so funny. He posts 3 videos within the same day, and he's wearing separate outfits. Now, this picture at the bottom is from February 4th, 2026. Here's the second video that he posted. He says, this morning we eliminated Ali Larijani, which is true. Ali Larijani has been assassinated, and that's confirmed by Iran.
Ali Larijani זה הבוס של משמרות המהפכה, שזה חבורת הגנגסטרים שמנהלת בפועל את איראן.
Why does he have Bugs Bunny? Is that a joke? Is he trolling his domestic scandal that he was facing?
לנו לצידו גם את מפקד הבסיס, זה העוזרים של הגנגסטרים, שהם מפיצים טרור ברחובות.
I don't know, what do you guys think? There's a lot more books. This seems more real to me than any of the other posts that I've seen from him.
בתקווה לתת לעם האיראני הזדמנות לסלק אותו. זה לא יקרה.
All right, we're not going to listen to that forked tongue. Let's see what he says in English. We're undermining this regime in the hope of giving the Iranian people a chance to oust it. It won't happen all at once, and it won't happen easily. But if we persist in this, we'll give them the opportunity to take their fate into their own hands. In parallel, we're helping our American friends in the Gulf. I had a long conversation with President Trump yesterday on this matter. There's cooperation between our air forces and navies, between me and President Trump and his people. Will help both with indirect attacks, which create immense pressure on the Iranian regime, and with direct operations. So that kind of sounds like Israel's taking a backseat, doesn't it? Will help with indirect attacks. We know America's been doing the heavy lifting here. There are still plenty of surprises. Oh, I'm sure. Netanyahu, the king of surprises, the king of deception, right? With stratagems shall we wage war. They don't have a strategy. Come on. We won't reveal all the stratagems here, but I told you there are many of them. How many strategies do you need? He says, now regarding one more thing, the most important thing to win a war is determination, determination, determination. Determination of the leaders, determination of the commanders, determination of the people. We are determined to win. We'll achieve these things. Yeah, I know. I ask you simply to ignore the channels of gloom. We are achieving historic accomplishments, says Satan. We, with God's help, have reached a situation after Octagon 7 when we were on the brink of the abyss. And now they're in much better of a position, right? Certainly not on the brink of abyss right now, as their country's getting shellacked night after night. And now we are a mighty power, almost a global one. The delusions of grandeur from Satan, with the friend who is the global superpower fighting shoulder to shoulder. That's already a tremendous achievement in the face of all threats that will come upon us. Yo. That's right. What other country has these capabilities? They're all under attack here. Who has our strengths? The strengths of the alliances, of the IDF, the Air Force. Stay strong. I want to tell you, we'll help you too. Everything related to compensation, I have instructed to present you with the plan, and also to expand the plan to help the North as well, and to help anyone who needs it, just as we did before, and with the strength of a lion, just as we did previously during the corona pandemic. We'll do it even more so this time. Sure thing. Sure thing. That's the second video that Netanyahu posted. We'll find that third one here somewhere. Here it is, right here. This is from the Prime Minister's office, posted 4 hours ago. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from the Air Force Command Center at the Kiryat in a message to the people of Iran for Nowruz. Pretty crazy, right? Because for like 3 weeks, we haven't known where Netanyahu is. Now they're just saying, yeah, this is right here. Here are the coordinates. We're at the Kiryat, the Air Force Command Center. He says, I'm here with Israel's defense minister, our chief of staff, the head of the Mossad, the chief of Air Force, our senior commander. So they took the hint. They knew that we weren't buying it. And now we have this.
I'm here with Israel's defense minister, our chief of staff, the head of the Mossad, the chief of Air Force, our senior commanders. In the past 24 hours, we knocked out 2 of the terrorist chieftains, the top terrorist chieftains of this tyranny. Our aircraft.
What's going on with the figures in the back? Do you see that? They're like all frozen. It's like they're cardboard cutouts. Look at this right here. Like this one's moving, but this one's not. He's just got his hand in the air. Kind of strange. I'm seeing this for the first time, by the way.
Our aircraft are.
Oh, maybe he's holding like a boom mic or something. Is that like supposed to be the production, but like that they're looking at? It's just reflected in the window. Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to say.
Our aircraft are hitting the terror operatives on the ground.
And look at that slow push. They're like, look, that is definitely Netanyahu.
The crossroads in the city squares. This is meant to enable the brave people of Iran to celebrate the Festival of Fire. So celebrate and Happy Nowruz. We're watching from above.
He actually said we're watching from above. Is that because you're dead and you're not on Earth now? How far above are you watching, Mr. Prime Minister? I tend to think that he is alive, but I still think that the videos that they shared were AI. And that's because they just like to lie and deceive and confuse. I mean, it's how they wage war, right? It's through deception. Samir, thank you for that super. The blackness of his jacket is off compared to the rest in the room, amongst other things, the masters of deception. So you're saying right here in this clip, because people are also talking about Mike Huckabee's jacket and how let me show you that. So remember that photo that we saw. So they're saying that this jacket right here does not match the jacket that he was wearing in that video that we saw, where he's like, thank you for not assassinating me, Mr. Prime Minister. Oh, here it is. So here's the pinstripe jacket with lines going down in that picture that we just saw. And in the video, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could be looking at artifacts. You know, these videos, they get downloaded, they get re-uploaded, and every time, and this is a picture, so we're kind of comparing apples to oranges. I don't know about it. And it's also in sunlight, whereas the other one was in a room with artificial light. So I'll leave it to you to be the judge, okay? These photos are irrefutable proof he's alive. Look at this. After I saw this picture, I'm like, yep, Netanyahu's definitely alive. Some people are saying that Mike Huckabee is like 6'3", and Benjamin Netanyahu is 5'11" or 5'10", and in that video they have the same height. I don't know. I think it's all pretty much in the weeds. You see how they're like the same height?
Make sure you were okay.
Yes, Mike.
Yes, Mike. He's so inconvenienced by the question. Also, Ben Gvir allegedly made an appearance. He's delivering pizza. He's a pizza delivery boy. This is pretty strange. This was posted to Ben Gvir's account, I don't know, a couple hours ago.
ולחברים המתוקים שלו עושים עבודה נפלאה בצפון נסריט את חיזבאללה בעזרת השם כמה שיותר.
That doesn't even look like him. That doesn't even look like Ben Gvir. You see that face? I don't know. That could totally be AI. Why are you delivering pizza? You're the national security minister, and your country is at war right now. Don't you need to be heading some security cabinet meetings too yourself, not delivering pizza? What are you, door dashing now? That's what you've been reduced to? Come on. It is very blurry. Ben Gvir posted this video of himself delivering pizzas on TikTok an hour ago. So proof of life has been reduced to TikTok content creation for both Ben Gvir and Netanyahu. I mean, I tend to think that he's been dead. And I don't think that this is sort of like that other video where he was like, oh, no, I'm alive. Go f*** yourselves. We all thought that was AI, too. Of all the things that you could be doing, don't you think it's a bit on the nose to be delivering pizza in light of everything, in light of the Epstein files, in light of Epstein's connection to Israel? I mean, come on. Where's the cream cheese? Do you have a vat of cream cheese in your truck? It's all very suspicious, right? But I think the most important thing that we can't lose sight of is that whether or not Netanyahu is alive or Ben Gvir is alive or dead, it really ultimately doesn't change the outcome of the war. And that is what we should not lose sight of. Because Israel is suffering a strategic defeat. and so is the United States, and nothing is really going to change that. And right now, we're up to the 60th wave of strikes. Iran is up to its 60th wave as of an hour ago. In fact, I hear they're getting pummeled right now. In fact, this says the 60th wave killed 2 in Ramat Gan. Apparently, Ramat Gan is a big Zio IDF stronghold. And, you know, Iran has even ordered people that are living in Ramat Gan to evacuate. So a new barrage damaged multiple sites near Tel Aviv, causing deaths, structural damage, and disruptions across central Israel. Iranian forces launched another round of missiles with reports pointing to the use of Khorram Shah. Some of my favorite posts come from Elon Levi, that despicable creature who is crying that the Israelis are finding out what they around about for so long. An Iranian ballistic missile exploding into cluster submunitions over Israeli cities. Look at that. You know, normally I'd think of something really snarky to reply to him, but I can't think of anything. If you think of anything, let me know, because I like to troll this guy. And I'm running out of comments. Honestly, I need some new material. Okay, I'll be the first to tell you. I've been going at this for almost 3 years now. I need reinforcements. Have they tried crying about it? I mean, that's my go-to. All right, so look at this Zionist piece of shit going crazy and telling the world how the Iranian missiles have destroyed Israeli lives. It is so satisfying to watch these Israelis go crazy, says this poster. Just one word, and that word is Gaza, by the way. I can't take anyone seriously when they got this little troll poof on the top of their head. He's hanging on to the 5 strands of hair he still has, and he's showing off about it. He's spiritually a chihuahua. That's what I think of him. Like a little barking chihuahua. Like, oh, isn't that cute? The chihuahua is angry. How can we make progress every step? I get going, build momentum, and stopped. Boom, a month. Boom, 2 months. Boom, 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 boom. Yes, boom. That's the point. I want continuity, he says. I can't wake up. You go to daycare. Mama. Red paint. What the fuck is this guy talking about? Meanwhile, or. Oh my God, this guy is hilarious. Wait, we gotta hear this.
כל היום, 5 פעמים אתה קם בלילה, מתחיל יום חדש, ועוד פעם,
Yes, that's what we want to see. Holy, they are crashing out hardcore, and we are here for it. Thank you, Mordecai. Have you tried crying? Mordecai, those aren't sirens, they're God's trumpets, okay? Why are you upset about God's plan? That's all I have to say. This Jewish man is mad that he has to wait in line at the DMV. This is racism.
You'll be doing your registration.
Yeah.
That's what you're here for too?
Yeah.
All of you?
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah.
The Jew is just finding out, like, wait, I'm in a room full of goys? I'm being treated by, like, a goyim?
I'm here to renew my registration.
What's the problem?
So what's the problem?
Yeah, what's the issue?
Because this, I never had this before.
I've always been fed everything to me on a silver platter. What's the deal here?
Just a lie.
I can't get no respect.
Yeah.
It's a lie. Everybody doing the same thing.
It's called being a model citizen and acting accordingly.
You make it so difficult. I feel like you don't have to make it so difficult.
Do you know who I am?
People are treating me like I'm a bug. Worse than a bug.
People are treating me like I'm one of the regular people, and I'm not. I'm special. I'm very remarkable. Have you seen my IQ test?
Worse than a bug? Worse than a bug.
Oh my God.
Everybody get the same treatment. There's a bug, you say, oh, there's a bug over there. How cute little bug there. Me, they're talking over me, making me sit over
These are insufferable.
here. What if I want to sit over there? Why
I'm
do
the only one with a tiny hat in here.
I gotta see? I never heard of it.
This is a perfect example of Jewish supremacy happening in real time in America. Just like angry white people who are racist, when they see that they have to wait in line with black people, or Spanish people, or anyone that doesn't look like them, they're angry about it. They're almost like, what's going on here? Why is this happening? Why am I waiting around over here with you people? That's exactly how this man was acting. except it was with the Goyams. He was like, why am I waiting over here? Normally I wait over there in the VIP office.
Whoa, this guy's being very anti-symmetrical.
Normally it's over there. And see how he says, oh, they're treating me like a bug? They're trying to do their jobs and telling him to wait in line, and he's dehumanizing himself.
He's actually projecting his own racism onto everyone else in the room.
To make people around him think that he is a bug. He's just annoying like a bug. He isn't really a bug, just annoying like it. Almost like a gnat. So Jewish supremacy, even scarier than white supremacy. Why? They think they're chosen by God. Similar to Manifest Destiny, when you have European settlers come to Turtle
I mean, I think white supremacists probably think they're chosen by God too.
Island and genocide and ethnically cleanse the indigenous population here in America. That is the exact same concept of Jewish supremacy, except, they added a little dash of Zionism on it to, make Jews who already knew that things like this were bad, make them think it's okay because they're doing it. And, Jewish pride, oh yeah.
Whoever that guy is, he's completely based. See, this post is from Low Key. He says, U.S. Israeli forces are reported to have bombed 43,000 non-military locations in the first 2 weeks of war on Iran. 43,000. 36,500 were residential buildings, and 120 were schools. They've bombed 120 schools in the past 3 weeks, or in the first 2 weeks, excuse me. Please remember when they claim to care about Iranian people.
Run, 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 run. Ja?
Vai, tá mexendo mais forte quando nós chega perto.
Ó. Ele vai correr. Que negócio esquisito, esquisito, né?
Gente, ele é muito estranho.
Look at this damn thing. I don't know if that's a bear or a wolf or what, but it would definitely freak me out if I saw that in the forest.
Man, grand rising to the collective. Y'all know we back with another banger, another reaction. I appreciate everybody who been tapping in, running up, and subbing up. If you new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell so you always notified whenever we drop them uploads. Y'all know we coming with about 4 videos every smooth 7. This is for entertainment purposes as well. And like
How you doing? I'm Callan and this is Slapped Ham. You're about to see some seriously scary videos, so hit that subscribe button and get ready for more creepy content, just like this. Ehab Kasmia is a popular urban explorer on YouTube and Snapchat who often investigates eerie abandoned buildings, and more often than not he encounters some very strange things. The building that he explores in this video appears to have been a residence at some point. It's old and largely empty, but a few decrepit furnishings remain. For the first few minutes of his exploration, everything appears to be fairly normal.
Where do you think you want to be today?
He seems to be entirely alone in the building.
I got a bench for this match.
قسما بالله بتحرك. بسم الله.
However, a few minutes into poking around the empty rooms, a noise suddenly startles him.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. 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 تعال.
He spins around just in time to see a head disappearing behind a door.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
He gives chase, but the shadowy figure is gone.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تعال. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
There are further indications that he's not alone in this creepy old house. As he's examining a bathroom mirror, he's startled when something's caught on camera.
The heaven is here. Show some respect.
يما يما بسم الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
I hope I make him proud.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
A hand seems to reach through the doorway.
يما يما بسم الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
But there doesn't appear to be anyone there.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Not long after, the shadowy head makes another appearance. The explorer this time doesn't seem to notice it.
يا جن بدنا نحكي معك.
I couldn't even trust you to write an accurate news story, Eddie. What's changed?
Then things escalate to off the charts creepy when he decides to look into the mirror once again. Take a look.
هيو والله هيو والله والله وحياة الله هيو. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات.
Watching that again, slowed down, an eerie face can be seen looking back at him from the mirror. But when he swings around, there's nothing there.
هيو والله هيو والله والله وحياة الله هيو. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات.
So who or what was watching this YouTuber as he explored the old house? Was someone following him around as he documented the building? Is the place truly haunted by some sort of spirit? Either way, one thing is certain, he wasn't alone in that house.
هيو والله هيو والله والله وحياة الله هيو. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
This footage put Ehab on the paranormal map as he's since garnered a healthy following on both YouTube and Snapchat, as viewers tune in every week to follow along on his explorations. His channel is well worth a look. As always, there's links in the description box below.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
When TikToker and beloved Talia posted a quick lip sync video, they didn't think much of it and sent it out to their followers to enjoy. However, comments quickly started rolling in asking who was in the background. Take a look. It can be hard to notice at first, but if you slow it down, a shadow comes in from the left. Then, right at the end, there's an ominous silhouette in the background.
Nothing about this place.
According to the comments, the uploader didn't initially notice the figure and was home alone at the time of recording. People started speculating that it was either a prowler in the house or something paranormal, like a shadow person. Whatever it is, it certainly freaked the comments section out, with most people saying she needs to get out of the house immediately. In 2015, a local resident in Chile was filming two street-legal race cars speed down the road when they inadvertently caught something truly mysterious on camera. The footage was uploaded to the YouTube channel The Buzz for all to see. Watching that again, slowed down as the cars zip by, a dog seems to materialise out of thin air. Even if the dog was just standing on the road, how did it not get hit by the two speeding cars? Neither car hit the brakes or swerved, so it's as though the drivers didn't see the dog at all. Yet somehow it just appears and casually strolls across the rest of the road. When this clip first hit YouTube, it quickly went viral, with comments claiming we're witnessing a teleporting pooch. Others joked that the dog just respawned on the spot. Whatever way you look at this footage, it's a mystery, a clip that seems to just get weirder and weirder the more times you watch it. For many, Christmas time is the happiest time of the year. Imagine then if you glanced outside only to realise you were being watched by a Sasquatch. According to YouTuber North by Wild West, that's exactly what happened. Captured somewhere in northern Minnesota, the video begins as the camera holder films their family's Christmas celebrations. As she pans past the Christmas tree, she notices something slinking into the woods out of a nearby window.
Merry Christmas! The tree?
What was that?
Oh my god.
At first, the figure's hard to see, just a dark shape against the trees. Everyone heads outside to get a better look at the creature.
Most spiders just climb walls. I'm psionically linked to a giant robot.
Now, its size and shape become more apparent. It's tall and appears to be covered with dark hair.
Oh my god.
Before you attack, get ready.
No way.
That can't be.
Every time
The creature also walks upright, unlike a bear.
still around, everything will be all right.
It clearly isn't a trick of the eye, as the family dog notices its presence and soon takes off after it.
Oh. Oh no.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Both the dog and the creature disappear into the woods. However, the creature reappears a few minutes later. This time, it's much more clear.
Oh my god.
It's up to us to protect them.
It moves through the trees, eventually disappearing from sight. Frightened, the camera holder then ushers the rest of the onlookers back into the house.
We better get back inside, guys.
So could this video really show the elusive cryptid affectionately known as Bigfoot? Many photos and videos claim to provide evidence of the mysterious creature, yet to date no one's been able to definitively prove that it really exists. This next video was uploaded to Reddit by OddExplorer2735. It features what some think might be paranormal activity at a nursing facility somewhere in San Diego. The clip was supposedly captured by a co-worker of the poster while they were on a late-night break. They noticed some odd movement nearby and, as they were already on their phone, decided to take a video. Watch.
That's fishy.
As you can see, several translucent shapes pass by the light in quick succession. According to the poster, the staff at this particular facility believe it to be haunted. As paranormal activity is thought to be common at many medical facilities, several viewers thought that these figures had to be ghosts. However, a few keen-eyed viewers thought that the shapes were just water from a sprinkler system. This certainly seems possible, and if you watch the clip again with that in mind, seems like it could actually be the case. Unfortunately, the quality of the video is too low for viewers to come to any definitive conclusion. So what's your opinion? Was this a genuine paranormal encounter, or has this mystery been debunked as little more than water coming from a sprinkler? In January 2022, Unanswered Universe uploaded this eerie piece of footage to their Instagram account, and it's been freaking viewers out ever since. Have a look. This home security feed catches the moment a chair moves, seemingly all on its own. The homeowner goes to inspect it when it suddenly flies towards him. Understandably, most viewers were freaked out by the incident, with many saying the house needs to be blessed by a priest, noting that the chair seemed to move quite aggressively, as though a demonic energy was the cause. Others were a little more level-headed, skeptical of the camera angle and why the camera was filming in the first place. So let me know where you sit on this. Demonic energy, or just a prank looking to score some Insta views? Let me know down below. In December 2014, a woman named Cecilia Carrasco claimed she was attacked by a ghost. 34-year-old Carrasco was visiting her lawyer in Santiago, Chile, when she felt something push her to the ground. Luckily, the officer's CCTV cameras caught the incident on camera for all to see. Nothing seems to touch the woman, yet she falls to the ground as though pushed by some unseen force. Recalling the event, Carrasco said she felt like two hands pushed hard on her chest before she fell. She admits that she never believed in ghosts until the incident and is now frightened to leave her home. Initially, Carrasco thought someone in the office had pushed her, then ran away. But when the receptionist confirmed that there was no one there, she had to see the footage for herself to see what had actually happened. Authorities thought that she may have been confused as to what took place. However, they declined to comment on the strange footage. Despite the fall, Carrasco didn't require any ongoing medical care. So what do you make of this bizarre event? It does genuinely look like Carrasco was pushed, so could it have been a ghost? Drop your theories in the comment section down below. There are certain rules we're taught to believe that the universe will always obey no matter what. But what happens when one of those rules is unexpectedly broken? That's exactly what seems to happen in this strange video uploaded by Redditor DRK34. The question is, does this footage show a glitch in the fabric of our reality? The footage appears to have been shot on a cell phone camera in some sort of park or outdoor area. The person behind the camera is recording a toddler running with a dog bounding behind playfully. But that's when something truly mysterious happens. Take a look.
True, do you think you want to be
The dog runs into a dark shadow and disappears from view. A second later, the dog reappears several yards away from where he just was. He seems to have teleported several yards in a matter of seconds.
Show some respect.
Now, who am I gonna bench for this match?
Some viewers think that the dog just moved very quickly and changed direction while obscured by the shadow, but others are less certain of this mundane explanation. Most viewers state that if you watch closely, it's quite clear the dog couldn't have moved so far so quickly, and that he seems to completely disappear for a split second. They also point to the dog's confusion as evidence that something's amiss. So what do you make of this bizarre footage? Is this really a teleporting pooch, or is there a simpler explanation? If you've ever come home to an empty house and thought it felt a little bit creepy, then perhaps you shouldn't watch this next video. Uploaded to YouTube by Carrero Mask Channel, the clip shows a man as he returns home to his 5th floor apartment. The place is dark, but when he turns on the entrance light, he's immediately startled. There appears to be a hand resting on the arm of his sofa. At first, it looks as though the hand belongs to someone that's hiding on the other side. However, when the camera begins to pan out, the hand mysteriously vanishes. The YouTuber eventually enters his apartment and begins to look around, yet he's unable to find anyone.
That's some deadly aim you got there, Sheriff. You a member of the Assassin's Guild?
No. When it comes to the hunt, we Bloodstones have always been freelancers.
The clip is certainly a head-scratcher. If the hand did belong to a person, then where did they go? It would be almost impossible for someone to escape from a 5th floor window, and even harder to do so without being seen. There's also the fact that the hand suddenly disappears. It doesn't just slink back over the sofa as you'd expect if it belonged to someone. It just seems to disappear into thin air. Another chilling aspect to this video is that the YouTuber usually posts normal content about his day. He's not known for posting paranormal clips. So what do you think this footage shows then? Did the hand belong to a human intruder, or is there something supernatural at play here? Watch the clip again and judge for yourself.
Ready for another ghost fighter?
I will be doing a preliminary investigation of paranormal activity.
YouTuber Phil Kosh is certainly no stranger to the paranormal. On this occasion, he decides to explore the Alchemist Theater in Bayview, Wisconsin, a venue thought by many to be haunted. Even Kosh himself claims to have had a conversation with several actors who have witnessed strange things in the theater, as well as in its basement.
People have cleared out of the Alchemist, and I'm going downstairs now. I'm gonna do a little bit of investigating in the dark. It's totally dark down here. Jeez.
In this video, he centers his investigation around the basement, and it quickly becomes obvious that this is a place you don't want to be, especially after dark.
I'm in the basement.
Did a few repairs. Checkpoint. Now might be a good time to stop them.
We are lights.
As he explores the dimly lit area, he's suddenly startled when he runs into a cord hanging from the ceiling.
Jeez. Now I'm freaking myself out. I'm freaking myself out because I just ran into this little thingy hanging from the ceiling.
Whoever they are, they all
Alright. Jeez.
This is gonna hurt.
Already on high alert, Kosh's night only gets creepier from here. He makes his way down a passageway and begins to search the adjoining rooms.
Going down this hallway, we got 2 doors open here. I don't know what's in this room here.
He eventually reaches a doorway. Take a look at what he finds.
Oh, jeez! What the? Okay. Shh.
Inside, he discovers a creepy doll-like prop that appears to be hanging from the ceiling. The investigator is immediately spooked, however soon regains his composure and returns for a closer look.
But this is a theater. I'm sorry. This is a prop. This scared me. Look at this. Okay, everybody, look at this. What wouldn't... Okay. What... Okay. That must have been from a play. Okay, now I gotta really check. Is this real? This is the most disturbing thing I've seen in my freaking life. Jeez!
Suddenly, a door closes behind him. He decides to follow the sound, but is soon distracted by yet another door slamming shut.
Oh, come on. I think I have enough information here to get the hell out of here and bring my team back in. Hold on, let me just... This sounded like it came down this hallway here. I'm in the dark, I don't have a real flashlight, I'm going off of my view screen right now. Oh, I can't see anything. It sounds like a door closing. I still hear voices upstairs, so the voices of the music is still from upstairs. I heard that. I can't tell if that was from upstairs or not. There are things moving around all There are things moving around all around me, and I'm not liking this.
Including which side you're on.
I'm heading out, and I don't even know which way to go.
It's at this point that he wisely decides to pack up and leave. However, the basement is a dark labyrinth of rooms and hallways, and it's hard to find his way out.
I can't see anything. Is this a way out? That was that door that just closed.
Then, just as he thinks he's found the exit, this happens.
Alright, I'm looking for a doorway to the upstairs with this little thingy. Here's a doorway, here's a way out. Jeez!
Watching that again, a broom or shovel inexplicably falls in front of him. Then the video abruptly cuts out.
I'm out of here. I don't know where I am.
Kosh was obviously able to find his way out because he returned to the theatre 2 months later. In an effort to capture even more eerie footage, this time he decides to set up several cameras throughout the premises. Sure enough, it isn't long before his efforts are rewarded. Take a look.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attention.
Something just moved behind me.
As he takes a seat in the theatre, the chair behind him inexplicably moves.
Something just moved behind me. Jeez. Okay.
He then returns to the basement. As he approaches the room where he first saw the creepy prop in the previous video, a door appears to open all by itself.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna look, see if this prop is still back here again. And then we'll take a look. Come on. That's not cool.
Naturally, he scrambles out of the area, but is soon tempted to take another look. Thinking that there might be someone messing with him, he calls out, but gets no response.
If anybody's in there messing with me, I'm gonna kick your ass. Oh, jeez.
Kosh then enters a nearby room where he continues his search.
Okay, flashlight. Hello?
Suddenly, the door to the prop cupboard opens once more, this time with a lot more force. This event is enough to send the explorer running from the basement. As he does, one of the stationary cameras captures another door opening. Panicked, Kosh quickly grabs his equipment and exits the building.
Out.
It seems that apart from the chair moving in the theatre, the creepiest encounters in the building all occurred when Kosh was close to the creepy prop. Could it be that the doll itself is responsible for the strange events? Some people thought it might be possessed by a restless resident poltergeist. Sadly, the theatre is now permanently closed, making it difficult for anyone to find the answers to these pressing questions.
Heaven is on my side.
This set of photos was submitted to us on our subreddit by BRXMum. In 2017, the OP and her family all got together for the passing of their great-grandpa. They took a series of photos at the cemetery as a keepsake for the day. Although somber, everything seemed perfectly fine. That is until the family reviewed the photos they had taken that day. If you take a close look, there appears to be an extra hand. It looks like dull, grey fingers. Some viewers suggested it might be the woman in green's hand. However, the OP remembers that she had her hand on her back at the time, plus the fingers are a dull grey colour and don't match the tone of any of the people present. Given that the photo was taken at the cemetery, even the mere suggestion of grey reaching fingers appearing out of nowhere is unsettling. Have you ever been going about your day and felt like someone or something was watching you? After this video from Instagrammer Paranoid Normal, you might find yourself looking over your shoulder a little more than normal. In this clip, we see a man in a dim room. Keep your eyes on the curtains in the background. The streaks of light coming through the curtains are about to go from abstract shapes to pure nightmare fuel. Take a look. As the man goes about his business, the light coming through the curtains begins to take on the shape of a person's silhouette, almost as if someone's standing on the other side of the window. However, if that were the case, it would be the shadows, not the light, that form the silhouette. At one point, it's as though a hand runs down the curtain. Could this be a case of pareidolia, the human tendency to see faces and other signs of life where none exists? This might be the case, but how do you explain that hand running down the curtain? The man quickly rips the curtains open, showing that there's nothing on the other side.
Just what I needed.
So could this then be some sort of spirit haunting the home? Some viewers have been quick to dismiss this video as a hoax, questioning why the man was filming in the first place. However, others have questioned how such a thing would even be possible to fake in the first place, especially because the end of the video shows that there's nothing waiting on the other side of the curtain.
Avengers Tower, home sweet home.
Only 60 seconds left.
This very brief clip has little accompanying information. It's been suggested that it might have been captured by someone on vacation, and judging by the large pillars, it looks as though it was filmed outside of a temple. As the camera holder pans around the site, take a look and see if you can spot anything unusual. Besides the man seen exiting the building, keen-eyed viewers may notice there's another figure standing by one of the columns. However, it isn't until you slow the footage down that you can see what it actually looks like with any great detail. The figure stands with its head tilted back at an awkward angle, its mouth and eyes wide open, leaving empty black holes in its pale face. Its head seems to be twisted into a frozen scream of horror. While there's no denying that this is a creepy video, the fact that there's almost no accompanying information makes it impossible to know just what we're seeing. Could it be a spirit that's somehow associated with this old temple? Unfortunately, until more info comes to hand, this clip will have to remain a mystery. In this clip, we see several people visiting a friend in hospital. As they casually chat, one of them appears to call the camera person closer. As they do, the camera moves around, inadvertently capturing something rather chilling in the background. Take a look and see if you can spot what it is.
Us against the world.
It's very easy to miss, but if you slow the footage down, you can clearly see the head of a small figure peeking out from behind the bed. Strangely, nobody seems to notice the mysterious figure before the clip ends. If you take a good look, you can see that it appears to have a rather unusual face. It has dark hair, large eyes, and an oddly shaped nose. The strange thing about this video is that the room the group is in looks rather small, meaning it would be very difficult for someone to be hiding. So then, could this figure actually be some sort of paranormal entity? Spending the time in hospital is already an unpleasant experience without the thought that you could be sharing a room with a spirit.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
The hand of heaven is here. Show some respect.
This bizarre piece of footage was uploaded to TikTok by jmaleo165. A worker at a hospital is filming the security feed with their phone, showing their co-workers that something truly odd is happening in the laundry room. Take a look.
No way. No way.
Send me the video when you...
Oh, I'm gonna.
The best is when the other one comes over. It's like it didn't want to see the front of it, you know? Turns out it funded so that he didn't have to look at it no more, whoever's in that room.
Before you attack, get ready.
The security footage is sped up, but as you can see, the washing machine starts moving, seemingly all on its own.
Do you stand with Krakoa? Such allegiance between heathens.
No way. No way.
You are still a mutant, no matter where you dwell. Would you deny your own people?
The best is when the other
Battle
one comes
starts in
over.
5, 4, 3.
It's like it didn't want to see the front of it, you know? Turns out it funded so that he didn't have to look at it no more, whoever's in that room.
Shortly after, the washers on the left start moving as well.
Madeline, you didn't see. Come and look at the second one. There comes the second one. No, the second one's moving now. Oh, it's the second one. Then the second one falls off. And the lady comes in from Do Diagnostics. You don't know what to say. She was like...
She was on FaceTime with somebody.
Before long, yet more movement can be seen.
Look, here goes.
It happens. This does not happen.
Look, the ghost. Look at it. Who's spinning it?
It's spinning. It's spinning the cycle. It's gotta be spinning.
It almost looks like the machines are being pushed by some unseen force.
Mine ain't bolted in my house. Mine don't come and walk around my... Look how that one just came out. How'd it come out like that? That was pushed out. I don't care what nobody says. You can tell me whatever you want.
Me too. I can't wait to show everything.
Then they start moving back and forth.
Show them the thing. Look, here. Look at this. Look. Look. Look at it coming.
No way.
At one point, the door at the rear of the room opens. According to the uploader, this is an employee who heard a commotion in the laundry room. They then notified the security desk that something strange was happening.
There's a ghost here.
No way.
I'm showing them the ghost in the back. Oh, did you ever see what happened last night? Forgot about it. The laundry.
After this, you can even see one of the powder drawers on one of the machines open all by itself.
They just start coming out and moving and going in circles and what you call it. Come and look. Yeah, but it's crazy. I never saw anything like it my whole life.
Naturally, the comments section was set alight with theories. Some people thought perhaps it was actually a security feed from a cruise ship. At first, this could make sense. However, the paperwork on the desk in front of the monitor says it's a hospital.
That's when another one comes over.
Another keen-eyed viewer asked why none of the machines seem to be plugged in with hoses or electrical cords. This is a valid point, but it still doesn't explain how these super heavy machines just pivot back and forth with ease. Another theory is that they are actually on and vibrating heavily, which could cause them to move around the room. But if they're not plugged in, then this doesn't explain the movement either.
There's a ghost here.
No way.
Because this footage was filmed at a hospital, many viewers thought it could be the work of a poltergeist, or perhaps the residual energy of those who have passed away in the hospital.
Don't come and walk around my...
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one. And here's the fight that my father
So they're the theories, but where do you sit on this bizarre piece of footage? Drop your opinions in the comment section down below.
Look, here, wait. Show them the thing. Look, here. Look at this. Look at it coming.
No way.
This curious snippet of footage has been doing the social media rounds lately. It purports to show a time traveler at an Elvis concert in the early 1970s. Take a look.
3 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
As you can see, there appears to be someone in the crowd holding what looks like a modern smartphone. They're pointing it right at the stage as though filming the event. Obviously, tech like this didn't exist in the early 1970s. Some people thought it looked like the Kodak 110 camera, a slim cartridge-based device released in 1972. While this could be a possibility, it looks like the person is filming continuously in portrait mode, up and down. The Kodak camera takes still images and needs to be held horizontally. Another suggestion is that it's a cigarette case and that the person just happens to be holding it up while being jostled by the crowd. Others noted that an Elvis concert would certainly be a worthy event to time travel to. So what are we actually looking at here then? An old Kodak camera, a cigarette holder, or a genuine case of time travel? Take another look at the footage and decide for yourself.
Don't count us out yet.
In this next video, we see a group of friends having a time setting off small fireworks in the grass. It's nighttime, so the people are only visible when the sparks shoot brightly into the air. Unfortunately, these brief flashes of light also show that something sinister might be lurking nearby. Take a look.
You know what to do?
At first, it can be hard to spot. However, when the fireworks go off, we can see that there seems to be an extra figure lurking in the background. This person isn't interacting with the group or even watching the fireworks as they spark into the sky. Instead, this pale grey figure stares straight ahead with its hands by its side. Even though it looks rather creepy, it's possible that this figure was there the whole time. The footage is grainy and the surroundings dark. This might make the figure look even more unnerving than they actually are. However, what happens next suggests that we might actually be witnessing something paranormal. Watch.
Normal. We gotta count.
As the next firework flies into the sky, it illuminates a chilling face staring directly into the camera in the left-hand corner of the screen.
Time, final score. 3.
The face is large and has dark sunken eyes. Some have speculated that it's the face of the same figure seen previously.
Well, you respected them all.
Of course, it's possible it's just one of the friends attempting to scare the camera holder. Yet, the earlier appearance of the pale, ghostly figure seems a little too coincidental. Take another look at this mysterious footage and let us know what you think's going on in the comment section down below. There's very little information about this mysterious video, except that it was supposedly captured somewhere in Japan. The footage shows two men in a public bathroom. The bathroom seems empty, yet one of them claims he can hear a voice. Convinced that he can hear a sound, he coaxes the other man towards one of the toilet stalls. After a quick search, they discover that the sound seems to be coming from a small radio left by the base of one of the toilets. At first, this seems like a perfectly logical explanation for the mysterious sounds, yet the pair soon discover that the device is actually unplugged. While the situation up until this point is certainly odd, it's when the man exits the stall that things get really creepy. Watch. Suddenly, the pale face of a young woman can be seen by the man's elbow. Her appearance is so brief that if you blink, you'll probably miss it. However, if you slow the footage down, you can clearly see the mysterious face. The area is very small, so it'd be almost impossible for the man to not have seen the woman when he entered the stall. That, coupled with the face's ghostly appearance, has led many to believe that it might actually be a spirit of some kind. So what do you think's been captured in this video? Could the face really belong to a ghost? Or is there a chance there could have been someone hiding in the stall the whole time? Take another look at the footage and let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Nothing puts a dampener on your day like a poor night's sleep. After getting several nights of bad sleep in a row, Redditor KitKat9876 decided to get a camera to see if they could find out what was going on. The answer ended up being much more disturbing than they had anticipated. According to the Redditor, they were having trouble sleeping at night because something would regularly wake them up. They report feeling like something was shaking the bed, but upon waking, they were never able to locate a cause for the strange feeling. Deciding enough was enough, they brought a camera and placed it at the foot of the bed, hoping to capture video footage that could answer their questions. The footage is unsettling, providing more questions than answers. As the Redditor lies sleeping, there appears to be a disturbance with the blankets. It looks as if something has lifted a portion of the blanket into the air. It remains in the air for a few seconds, then drops back down. The sleeper never stirs. The video becomes oddly pixelated during the movement. Much poorer quality than the rest of the video, which makes it hard to see exactly what's going on. The abrupt change in video quality makes the footage even eerier. So what's going on in this strange clip? Some viewers have reported spotting something that looks like a face hovering over the sleeper's back just after the blankets settle. They've suggested the presence of a ghost or even a demon. I'll throw this one out to you, the viewers. Let your theories rip with one another in the comment section down below. In February 2017, a passenger on a commercial airliner flying from Warsaw to London spotted something truly bizarre out their window. They shared the pic to the Facebook page, Chile UFO. In the photo overlooking the wing of the plane, you can see a mysterious formation in the distance. There are 6 distinct columns or figures jutting out from the clouds. Viewers were shocked at the humanoid-like silhouette the shapes were casting. Some said they were angels or demons, while others exclaimed they had to be aliens. It's unclear whether the other passengers on board the flight also saw the phenomena. It's also a shame the passenger didn't take a video of the bizarre sighting to solidify just how strange it is. So for now, all we can do is speculate on what this thing could actually be. This image was posted to Reddit by BetaTap93. In the description, the poster mentions that it's an old photo of them and their cousins. In it, we can see the group smiling happily as they eat a meal. However, near the center of the picture, there's a strange streak of white mist. It has no definite shape or form, and none of the people in the photo seem to notice it. While the shape is odd, it's certainly not definitive proof of the paranormal. It could simply be steam from a hot cup or perhaps a puff of smoke from a nearby cigarette. However, the story that accompanies the photo seems to make it all the more believable. According to the Redditor, everyone seemed to know there was something strange about the house in which this picture was taken. Their mother even had a name for it, Gasparin, which in Spanish means Caspar. They would hear things like wind chimes ringing inside the house when there was no wind, random knocking sounds coming from the walls, and even a guitar playing by itself. However, the strangest events centered around a toy car. One night, everyone in the house was awoken by the sounds of the car turning on.